Oh shit, you can probably hear that twice. Hello everyone. I don't know if you're here yet. Hello Merlin. I don't know why I'm so out of bloody breath. Goodness me. Hi chat. Hello, I'm not creative, so don't have the funny name. Hello Manar. Hope you're well. Let's go. Hi. Hello everyone. I think you probably all saw my post. My post, it was a little bit confusing because what I might do is I might record part of this. I might record and upload this, but then I also might make a longer video which has nothing to do with Lonerbox and is more about wounding and slow violence in Palestine, because I've been reading a lot today. So there's a guy called Craig Jones who wrote The Great March of Return, Enduring Violence and Spaces of Wounding. I'll just send it. Craig Jones. It's quite a good article just about the Great March of Return and wounding there. And I watched Lonerbox's video on this earlier, and I'd never seen it before. And it's just a really, really perverse video. Like a really, really perverse video. But it's fucking unsurprising, isn't it? Really. But there's a lot of other stuff to talk about. I'll just wait until more people start getting in here. I guess this is why people don't have like waiting screens and stuff, and I will get better. I saw someone comment about the dolphin noises and was like, audio issues are to be expected. Also, fucking YouTube said that my video yesterday was not suitable for most advertisers, so who knows what caused that. I think maybe what it was, because I normally talk about pretty political topics, but I think what may have caused the problem yesterday. Oh, my PC is hot, I think. What may have caused the problem yesterday was the videos of Israeli settlers. Yeah, who's the first favourite Chris? Chris Chan, the sort of lolcow guy, woman. Sorry for misgendering Mr. Chan, Mrs. Chan. Goodness me. Having a bit of a nightmare already. The dolphin noises. Yeah, the dolphin noises returned yesterday. It was something to do with... I don't know what it's to do with. I think it's to do with when my... I actually don't know. I don't want to touch anything. Chris Rock. Is Chris Rock the comedian? Yeah, Chris Rock. Is he the one in the... He's the one in Blame Game by Kanye West, isn't he? I'm proud of my dinner. What did you make for dinner? Cancelled. Congrats on the job interview. Yeah, congratulations. What I mean, I don't know whether to just start. I mean, I will wait until more people get in. I'll just read chat and see. Did you summon a dolphin? No, it's something to do with my microphone, and for some reason it just makes fucking dolphin sounds. It's really bizarre. I don't know what's caused it. It's happened twice. It never happened in the whole time I streamed on Twitch, so maybe it's some issue with YouTube. If you're going to wear a big silly robe in England, you should have to wear a wig like a judge. Who are you talking about? Like, what does that even mean? A big silly robe in England? Are you just sort of being Islamophobic, or what's the point? Do you know if you can get in trouble with being outwardly pro-Palestine in the big unis in the UK? No, I don't think you can. I don't think there's much you can get in trouble with. You know, most of us didn't get in trouble. None of us got in trouble at uni, really. We were protected by Exeter. It is a USB mic. I could get a Yeti. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about working on my setup. What did you say? Thumbnail. What do you mean thumbnail? 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 What do you mean thumbnail? I know who Chris Rock is, but I was just thinking he's the one from that thing, which is it is a really good song. Kanye West may be a horrible individual, but I like that song. It's a very good song. I'm watching. Yeah, that's good news. I would hope that if you're in here commenting that you were watching, as opposed to commenting somehow from not being in it. I mean, I kind of want to talk about the news, but like the news is pretty fucking mad, so I don't want to start as of yet. So as I say, I'll keep reading the chat. 80/20/20 is solid for USB mic. What's behind the screen? What do you mean? What's behind the screen? Like the white screen. What white screen? What white screen are you talking about? There's no screen. This is the back of. This is just a wall. It's just a wall behind me. Chris Guns are repairing our nation's image one live stream at a time. Indeed, I'm repairing the image of the United Kingdom by condemning colonialism. My Yeti Blue died about a year in, and I've had other problems. Okay, nice. I mean, I've heard that they're pretty good. I just need to get a setup that's more portable. My friend was talking about like getting a small PC that I can take around with me if I need to take it somewhere to stream and stuff. But yeah, thoughts on Liverpool? What about Liverpool? What happened in Liverpool? I mean, it's quite difficult in the sense of like, I really hate this kind of way that anytime there's sort of any event in the United Kingdom, that it literally has to just be a migrant did it, a Muslim did it, they're all terrorists, they're all evil, we need to deport them all, and every single time you spend your time worrying about that rather than like, hey, something pretty fucked is happening, you know, because it's just all people care about, you know. Relax, kid, they're trolling you, take it easy. What do you mean they're trolling you? Why would I want to relax? Like, what would you mean? Why would I have to relax? Chris, I'm speaking with a Palestinian journalist trying to coordinate a fundraiser. This journalist worked alongside Mahmoud. There's someone I know from Palestine that I want to do a fundraiser with. Basically, there's someone I know that I want to do a fundraiser with first before I do like more, and I'd rather do it like through one stream. I don't know. They're saying the thumbnail, but they mean profile picture in Unigrad. Oh, the thumbnail is the profile picture is from graduation. I'm wearing a robe because I graduated. If you graduate in the UK, you have to wear a robe and a hat. It's outside the Institute of Arab and Islamic Studies from Exeter. Yeah. We can call train. Also, do any of you know why? Do any of you know why people keep going on about pirates and Vikings? What is that? What is this thing about pirates and Vikings that people talk about? Like, what's the joke? Is it like a meme or something? Thank you, Mr. Chris, standing for the rights of Palestinian. Much love to you from Morocco. Thank you, Omar Ben. I wish that yours and my country were better at standing for the Palestinian rights, so it wasn't just on like people like me. Yeah, I know judges wear silly wigs and stuff, but yeah, I just have to wear that, unfortunately. Yeah, it's not bad, actually. It wasn't bad when it was in winter. I do have I had to wear a hat, but unfortunately I didn't buy it. Well, I didn't buy it because it's just really expensive, and the only people who really bought them seem to be international students. Are you sure it's not just one guy? I don't know if it is one guy who just says it, but he says it every day, and he comments it on my video. He commented it on the thing today. Could seem to sense if you have a Discord, please send to HyperJ. Interesting, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that would be helpful, HyperJ, if you could check links and stuff. Well, Vikings were pirates. Does that answer your question? No, it doesn't answer my question. It's just one unhinged individual. Yeah, I don't really get it, though. I don't really get, like, why this guy says it. Like, is it a joke? Is it, like, a commonplace joke? Or is it just something that this one guy says? Or what is it? Like, what is it? I'm very perplexed by it, though. Like, genuinely, I'm very perplexed. How expensive doctoral robes are? Yeah, I mean, what? But the thing is we can just rent ours for a singular day. So, like, I'm never gonna buy. Even if I do a PhD, I wouldn't buy like doctoral robes or anything. If I have the piece of paper, that's all that matters. Love from Palestine. I learnt a lot from you. Thank you, Richards. I hope wherever you are in Palestine is as safe as possibly can be in these horrifying times. And I mean, that's really difficult to say because it doesn't really matter where you are. You're still going to be subject to Israeli policies of elimination and such. Robes are like $40. Yeah, I don't know if that's to rent or to buy. It's like £30 here, which is probably like $40 actually. Yeah. What do you think of the King of England? I'm no monarchist. I don't believe in the monarchy. I don't really see the point. Do you have double walls? Because I see two. It's not a double wall. This is just a lower part of the wall, and that's an upper part of the wall. I don't really know why. I'm not really sure why. I learned through watching Anatomy of a Fall that French lawyers wear robes as well, and also French court makes no sense. I don't know anything about French courts, and nor have I ever seen Grey's Anatomy, so it's not something that I planned to watch recently. I mean, I guess actually there's a sort of minor thing that I could talk about now that's not really actually that minor. So I don't know if anyone saw this. Netanyahu carried out a major provocation. They're trying to provoke Palestinians. Sorry, I just turned it on and there's an artwork of Netanyahu kissing Hitler. Which is very weird. But also, I don't know if any of you have seen this. Basically, it seems that all of the aid being supplied by this new weird Israeli-American company is just Israeli products. And it's seemingly because Israel's economy is struggling. Like, this isn't some big secret. Israel's... Sorry, 1 second. Did you not say Grey's Anatomy? Did you say Grey's Anatomy? Am I strange or am I confused? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Canadian here, King is done. I mean, there's a lot of Canadians that like me, which is interesting. I'm very big with the Canadians, but the whole thing of the king. I mean, there's like a Hegelian argument for like a king, and a king being like basically a divided individual that does nothing basically and is just like the people, and it shows that absolute power is a bit of a farce, I believe, is his argument for it. But I don't know, I'm not such a believer in it. I think that there just shouldn't be people in the United Kingdom who are so incredibly fucking rich and just have all of this money and basically don't have to ever really work and can basically just do whatever they want. And they also kind of tricked what basically happened is, if you noticed, after the First World War, the system of monarchy as like a means for government was basically exposed and embarrassed, because they were all basically saying that if they all, were brothers, sisters and stuff, that they all had good relations because of their actual familial relations, then it would mean that, well, monarchy is a good system. The First World War showed that it didn't matter how they were related, and it ended up with like the biggest human tragedy of that kind of time and an alteration of everyone's lives. I mean, in the United Kingdom, there really actually wasn't. It was the first time, the First World War was really the first time that the state had interfered in the vast majority of people's lives. I mean, I think it was when people had to first get passports. But anyway, basically, the British Crown had started moving towards legitimising itself. I think it happened under Queen Victoria. It started moving towards legitimising itself, not through the idea that it was, had divine right to rule and all of these things. What it was, and what basically they saw as like the justification, was that they were like just did what do you call it, like public events, that they were like a public figure who was important for holding the country together. And if you look at how people basically justified why Queen Elizabeth was so important, they'd be like, oh, she was a light through all these testing times and all of this. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, her comments about, I don't know if any of you have seen this, Elizabeth, Israelis. Apparently, the ex-president Reuven Rivlin, who was the Times of Israel drives my computer fucking crazy. They said that Queen Elizabeth believed that every Israeli was either a terrorist or a son of a terrorist. That's a quote from her. This oh my goodness, what the fuck is this? This website drives my computer crazy. The Times of Israel. I don't know what it is about it. All of the Israeli news outlets actually do. I don't know if it's because they're sending you like an insane amount of cookies or what it actually is that causes that. But for some reason, yeah, the Israeli news outlets just drive my computer crazy. I actually have no idea what the reason is for this. Get uBlock, Chris. It will help with websites like that. uBlock. Okay, I'll try and change to that. My birthday was yesterday, and I was wondering if you had any book recs on Palestine beyond the basic starter ones. Yeah, I'd really recommend Preventing Palestine. I think it's one of the best books, and if you can get your hands on it, Arij Sabah Khoury's Colonizing Palestine is the best in recent years. I think it's one of the most important pieces of literature. It's basically an analysis of like why Israeli left-wing politics is that way. Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know. I think I have an ad blocker, I'm pretty confident. But that website in particular, Ynet, all of these places drive my computer absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievably crazy. I actually don't know what the hell it is. I don't know what the hell causes that. 13-second delay. Thank you, mediocre violist. You think the computer's screaming? I don't think the computer making that noise is fucking cute at all. It is very annoying, and it's all it does. It just constantly makes horrible noises. uBlock is... You're all just saying uBlock now, so thank you for that. Shall I get into the news then? I'll get into the news in a minute. Hold on. I think there's enough people to sort of start. Yeah, I'm going to start recording. Right. Your computer is anti-Semitic, bro. It doesn't like the Israeli websites. Maybe your storage space. I mean, I've got 900 gigabytes of things downloaded on my computer, so I probably do need to get rid of some of them. Try disabling hardware acceleration. Maybe that'll work. You got softcore erotic political streamer Hassanabi bookmarked. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. Can you order pizza one day on stream? Why would I order a pizza one day on stream? That sounds like an awful idea. I'm not going to order a pizza on stream. I'm definitely not going to do that. Why would I want to order a pizza? The screaming of my cat is not cute. Don't forget to hydrate. Chris' computer, don't listen to his mean words. You're doing great, sweetie. Check your trash file. Sometimes Chrome stores cache cookies in weird spots. Maybe. I mean, the problem is you're all talking about things that I don't actually... these words mean nothing to me. Right. So I think the major news to really talk about is basically... is what's happening currently at the aid distribution center. So Israel set up these new aid distribution centers, and they're horrible, as I say here. They're basically just this has been reported by a couple of people I've seen. Apparently, they're just giving people like products from Israel, and as I said, Israel's economy is struggling, and so I think that they're doing this. I think that the reason that they're doing this is because basically to boost Israel's economy. I genuinely think that there's an argument towards that, and I don't think that this company has the Palestinian best interests at heart. I think the fact that Jake Wood resigned over this. So this is the story. So the head of this weird aid group from Gaza resigned over it, basically, and he was even an American sniper, I believe someone said that he was like he was at least an American who served in Afghanistan. Basically what it's talking about is, hold on, here we go. 2 months ago, I was approached about leading GHF, which is the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's efforts, because of my experience in humanitarian operations. Like many others around the world, I was horrified and heartbroken at the hunger crisis in Gaza, and as a humanitarian leader, I was compelled to do whatever I could to help alleviate the suffering. Wood stressed that he was proud of the work I oversaw, including developing a pragmatic plan that could feed hungry people, address security concerns about diversion, and complement the work of long-standing NGOs in Gaza. I mean, by the way, this comment about basically, oh, we needed to address the hungry in Gaza whilst also addressing these security concerns. That's not the reason people are hungry in the Gaza Strip. People are hungry in Gaza because Israel is intentionally starving people there, and the aid is not being stolen by Hamas. There have been reports of looting, but a lot of these previously discussed gangs doing it. And there's a couple of people reporting that there's a guy who's basically like... There's basically like the guy who's leading it, a lot of people are accusing of, is just operating from Israeli controlled areas. When conflicts were systemically stripped, they moved. Israel accuses her. I'm just trying to see if I can find the articles. Execute for. So this is a Guardian article about it. Aid officials recount looting in Gaza as criminal gangs thrive amid Israeli bombardment. The attack, blah, 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 blah. I just want to see if it's... I bet it'll say Israel accuses Hamas. UN agencies say law and order has deteriorated. And by the way, Israel created this entire situation in the Gaza Strip by targeting police officers, targeting civilian agencies affiliated with Hamas. They created a situation where there was no one to control law and order in Gaza, with the explicit goal of basically creating a situation where people would be able to loot aid. And yeah, the cradle looting Gaza. Let me see if I can find this article. There's an article here. Where's the article? Can you send it to me via Twitter, please? Oh, here we go. I found it. So here you go. So, ISIS-linked gang leader behind aid looting resurfaces under Israeli protection. Yasser Abu Shabab and others like him have re-emerged under the guise of securing aid, donning uniforms and claiming to protect the limited humanitarian assistance entering the Strip. Quds News Network reports that Abu Shabab has established a fortified base in an Israeli-controlled zone in Rafah, now a kill zone. These groups operate under Israeli military protection, routinely looting aid convoys, especially in areas like Eastern Rafah and Karam Abu Salem. Abu Shabab is a known leader of armed gangs linked to ISIS and involved in looting aid under Israeli protection. Last year, the New Arab reported that Abu Shabab, among others, was working alongside hundreds of thieves under the protection of the Israeli occupation forces near the Kerem Shalom crossing, the primary entry points for aid convoys. He comes from the Tarabin Bedouin tribe, which spans from the Sinai to southern Gaza and the Negev desert, and has been identified in a UN memo as the main influential figure behind the widespread and organised looting of aid convoys to Gaza. Operating from eastern Rafah, Abu Shabab leads a gang of armed thugs who attack trucks carrying food and other critical supplies into Gaza. Multiple reports, including from Haaretz and the Washington Post, confirm these gangs have been seen looting in full view of Israeli forces, who neither intervene nor prevent the theft. Abu Shabab, recently active again on social media, boasts of his gang's coordination, while his armed men beat aid drivers and demand protection money, worsening conditions for a starving population. Meanwhile, Israel has systemically targeted... This is the stuff that I was literally just talking about. Israel basically created this exact scenario of what was going to happen in the Gaza Strip. Like, it knew exactly what would happen if it did this. And yeah, it knew what it was going to happen. Can you send it via Twitter, please? Someone sent me a message which I want to reply to. In a second, but I'll do it at a later date. But yeah, I mean, it's literally rather ridiculous. So this is a quote. Aid agencies say Kogat, the Israeli military agency that deals with humanitarian aid into Gaza, has refused to act effectively against increasingly daring looters. The UN has been assured that by the Israeli military that the route of the convoy has been secured. Officials said most of the organised looting has been taking place in a zone that the Israeli military controls. They don't have troops there, but their armed drones are everywhere, said one humanitarian official. Another UN aid official said he had seen armed looters within spitting distance of an Israeli tank. This, by the way, this article came out like a year ago. Not a year ago, but like many months ago. Israel is looting. Israel is allowing looting in the Gaza Strip. Basically, that's exactly what's happening. This is what's actually happening. You know, Israel allows this looting to happen. And you notice, by the way, I will always mention this thing. Israel has drones. Israel has aerial dominance. If all of the things that they claimed were constantly going on in the Gaza Strip were going on en masse, Israel would be able to continually provide evidence of what was happening there. But just to go back to this is what the former head of this new aid organization, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, actually said. He said it had become clear that it is not possible to implement this plan while also strictly adhering to the humanitarian principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence, which I will not abandon. It says, this is what it says, our trucks are loaded and ready to go, it said, adding that GHF would begin direct aid delivery in Gaza from Monday to reach more than 1 million Palestinians. I'm going to be honest, I think if you ever signed up for this organisation, that you had no morality, that you didn't care about neutrality, that you didn't care about these... that you didn't care about what was actually going to happen in Gaza, because you're signing up with an organisation that is basically put in place by Israel because they don't like the United Nations, they don't like UNRWA, and they don't hate UNRWA because they actually work with Hamas constantly. Why they disdain UNRWA is for the specific reason that they are the United Nations Relief and Work Agency. They sustain the important fact that Palestinians are refugees. They are people who deserve to one day return to their land. This is a temporary situation that will at one point be resolved, is basically what UNRWA does. And, you know, Israel could not have that. Israel could not have that. And I will just reply to this. Don't forget the UK military has evidence too. We've flown surveillance flights over Gaza over and over again. Where is the proof of this? Where is the proof that this looting is taking place en masse by Hamas? Where is the proof that this is happening? Why should I ban Swedish Viking? Why? What are you doing? What's he doing? Like, what are you doing? If it doesn't pop up, please try to create... Right. Such a weird coincidence that all these ISIS-linked guys like Jolani, who ostensibly wanted to build a caliphate, always seem to be okay with Israel. Well, I mean, initially, Jolani claimed that he wasn't okay with Israel. Jolani takes his name from the Golan Heights. His family were removed from there. But seemingly what Jolani wants is what Giuliani wants is kind of to follow the model of Sisi and all of these people. What Giuliani will do is increase authoritarianism once he has a stronger hold on all of the Gaza Strip, once he has a stronger hold on all of Syria, and with the backing of Emiratis and all these other people, he will basically consolidate his own rule and never allow decent change in Syria. That is what I think will probably happen, and I was foolish to believe, at all that this wasn't ever what was going to happen, and I do feel a bit silly, but at the same time, I think there were many Syrians who wanted rid of Assad, and I'm not Syrian, and I shouldn't tell people exactly what they should or shouldn't want. I don't think that's, my job, but I still think there's much more to be said about it. I am his biggest supporter. Got to protect the echo chamber. I mean, it's not that it's not an echo chamber, right? Like, I don't care if it's an echo chamber or not. I just don't want people in here who just objectively support genocide. Like I don't need to hear it. I don't need to hear excuses from genocide in the chat. Like, there's no ambiguity. Israel perpetrates genocide in the Gaza Strip. The people saying that Israel is perpetrating genocide in the Gaza Strip, who say that Israel is not perpetrating genocide, are lying. Israel clearly from very early on said that it was going to target Palestinians as a whole, that it was going to wipe out life there. And I just don't know if I want people who are going to, basically justify that. I mean, at some point, maybe you can come up and give an explanation if you really think it's not. Bro, Chris, I love you. Okay, Swedish Viking. I think I have seen you in here before, and I don't think you were being outrageous. But yeah, Bunglebox Ethan, or one of the trolls from Al Jazeera. I can't figure it out. Why would there be trolls from Al Jazeera? Hi Chris, love you. Greetings from the most notorious genocide country. What, Germany or Israel? I mean, Israel is probably the most notorious genocide country right now. Or Cambodia, I guess, could be up there, because obviously Cambodia did the Pol Pot regime did a very heinous genocide there. But yeah, so basically, this whole aid distribution thing is ridiculous. Like, it's never going to work, because this is not an organisation that has the best interests of Palestinians at heart. This is an organisation which is very important for establishing the expulsion of Palestinians. These aid distribution areas will make Palestinians entirely reliant on aid that is coordinated by both the Israeli government and the American government, people who openly say that they want to see Palestinians expelled from the Gaza Strip. So the idea that, they say like, we're doing this out of the goodness of our heart. It's just not true, is it? Like, it's just not true. And there's also something that a lot of people have been posting. Now, I'm not so sure about this guy. I'm not so sure about the person who originally posted this. I'm not so sure about, like, all of his views. I've seen some questionable things from him, but I'm going to use this because I just want the photo. People have been posting these photos and comparing them to the extermination of the extermination of Jewish people during the Holocaust. But what I will say is I think I totally agree with this. So I remember when I went to Sachsenhausen, which is a concentration camp, it's a concentration camp outside of Berlin. And I went there when I was quite young. It was in like December or something, or November, and all of these things. And I remember we were all wearing loads of coats and like properly dressed. And I remember how cold it was. And there was a guy giving us a tour, and he said to like all of us, he was like, right, so at Sachsenhausen, many people would just die during the roll call because they'd basically be stood out in the cold, not wearing appropriate clothing, and they'd be forced to stand there for hours on end. What you are seeing here is hungry, beleaguered people who have been subjected to a complete blockade for 2 to nearly 3 months now, isn't it, at this point? And they are basically just sat baking in the hot sun, waiting hours on end to get aid. They are sick, they are beleaguered, and they are going to suffer because of this. And I do think that it's a very good comparison with what happened. Obviously, it's not the scale, it's not the exact same thing, but it's still unbelievable what Israel is doing and what they're getting away with. Stopped. The Israeli helicopters are firing in the vicinity of the distribution site. Yeah, I mean, like, just look at this. It's a really, really horrifying image. And there's already discussions of like this. A humanitarian coordinator tells Dropside News that the newly opened US-backed distribution centers guarded on the perimeter by Israeli forces are being used to detain civilians. One elderly man was interrogated at the Muraj crossing after he failed to provide information on a relative. He was taken. He is now missing. Palestinians who walked an average of 15 kilometers crowd inside metal cages of the US-backed aid site surrounded by armed private security guards. It's very just weird. It's very weird, like, looking at this and hearing that people are already being captured. But it's hardly surprising, you know. I think that you can just see that this was always where it was headed. That guy quit because he knew that he was probably going to be complicit in, you know, crimes against humanity, Israel's attempt to expel all the Palestinians. And you just look at that, like, that's not humane. These are starving people. And also, it's got a fucking crosshair on. I don't know what that's taken from. But yeah. I think it's like you just look at this, you look at this and you just think, my God, and they don't have the capacity to distribute aid either. It's kind of unbelievable when you look at it. And already the whole plan is fucking falling apart. I mean,
this is...
we can just watch, hold on, I'll just fiddle with the audio because I'll need to put my headset on.
Something that has been negotiated between Hamas and the Americans and the Israelis.
Oh, this isn't what I thought it was. I think it's changed. Hold on. Al Jazeera have been reporting on this, and I just want to use theirs because generally they don't post any images that'll get me in trouble. But wait, hold on. There's something I want to look to at. Right. Hold on. But yeah, I mean, like, Al Jazeera's got some good reporting on this already. So, actually, I'll show you the scenes first. Hold on. Let me just pull this back over here. So, these are the scenes of what is already happening.
There had been a lot of malnutrition among women and children, and also lot of statistics from the United States. So
tens of thousands of people made to wait and then end up breaking through the area and are looting. I mean, here's some more images of looting. Here's people who managed to take Israeli cigarettes, Marlboro Golds, good choice of cigarette. Then there's photos of someone stealing a tree, which I say stealing, I think it's rightfully theirs to take, and someone's taking piping, which is hardly surprising. Like, what did you really expect to happen? You know, you look at images like this. Hold on. But yeah, like, look, here are scenes. The US company just, like, basically is not working. Like, look at this. They said that they were ready to do this today. They said that they were going to be able to say, hello, do not worry, shout out. Shout out, I hope you're well. But yeah, like, just look at these images of basically what's happening. Is this... It's 352p. I'm sorry that the images are so unclear. I don't know why they took the tree, but who fucking knows? Who knows? Like, I mean, yeah, like, look, these are just scenes of desperately hungry people who've been starved for months on end. And the aid plan clearly did not work because this wasn't something that was done with the best interests of Palestinians. They were just people, they're just being denied. Like, here's another one. This is from Tama, who's post decent stuff. From the camera, one of the young men present at the aid distribution centre in Rafah. Massive crowds of hungry people can be seen heading there to obtain food baskets, and we can observe the destruction of part of the separatist racial fence. You can see here. And of course, guess what Israel have done? They have opened by firing at them. Hello, Shakespeare. Hello, everyone else that's in chat. Yeah, like, here's just a photo of people. Like, you can see the fence being destroyed here. It's just not surprising. Like, you starve people. I don't know if anyone remembers specifically the thing that was referred to as the Flower Massacre, when a huge number of Palestinians were killed during an aid distribution event, and Israel was claiming, well, you know, Palestinians, they crushed themselves in a stampede. And it was like the argument that they were making was fundamentally ridiculous, because the reason that Palestinians were in a situation like that was because Israel had been denying them aid and not allowing aid to function properly. Here's another image of it, of what's happening there. Like, look, you can just see, like, people fucking swarming everything because they've been starved and denied the right, you know? My PC, you can probably hear it. Yeah, you can just see, and according to Al Jazeera and also from the sound in those videos, which I'm not playing because I'm just a bit concerned about them saying I'm doing something bad, but here's like the report. We have spoken to Ahmed Bayram of the Norwegian Refugee Council about the chaotic scene at the aid distribution site in Rafah. What we're seeing is indeed a summary of the tragedy that the people of Gaza are living. To be honest, I have been describing this plan as a non-starter, and we see it's a literal non-starter. You have been starving the entire population for almost 3 months, and then you're asking them to walk miles and miles in order to get a hold of a bag of lentils and a bag of flour. This is not how aid is done. This is not how aid should be distributed. Not least, obviously, an occupied doing that. An occupier, I assume it means. Doing that. A country that has destroyed and flattened Rafah, asking people to come back to Rafah, that has displaced people out of Rafah, and now tells them to come back and receive whatever they can get hold of. These are scenes we have literally been warning about all month now. It spread chaos, it spread confusion, and this is the result. I think the best thing that can now be done is for this plan to be cancelled, to be reversed, and for us professional humanitarians in the UN and NGOs to do our job. There are tons and tons of aid waiting across the border. Very simple decision. Open the gates and keep them open. I mean, this was a decision to starve people. Let me just respond. Hoping you can get a cup of tea. Thank you very much. As someone who avidly stays informed, how do you keep sane in your life? I mean, I look after my mental health by things like exercising, but also, as I said on Noah's stream, the way in which I stay sane is the belief that this cannot last forever, that a more equal and just world is plausible, you know, that we could move towards something that is just better, that is not this, you know. I think that that's kind of the thing. I'll just check my Twitter. I don't have any message requests on Twitter at all, so yeah. Hi Chris. Oh gosh. I mean, there's... hold on. Yeah, please don't just post Israeli flags. I'm going to block you. We're literally looking right now about how Israel is starving and killing people and has implemented a plan that does not work, that is totally unjust and completely... that is completely ridiculous. And you're just like, I want to post Israeli flags in the chat. Like, why do you want to do that? Like, why do you want to do that? It's disgusting. Like, I just don't want to see the flag of the country. I saw that video of Benjamin Netanyahu going, Free Palestine has become the new Heil Hitler. And it's just like, no, it hasn't. Am Israel High is much more like that. Am Israel High is literally, we are proud of exterminating you. We are expelling you from our land, you know? That's what they say. You know, like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see pride in what Israel has done. I don't want to see it, you know? Contractors they completely lost control. Security sources who have been speaking to Israeli army radio say that the US contract workers who are in charge of securing the aid distribution sites completely lost control after people rushed to the area to try and get the much needed food they have been deprived of for several months. I mean, also, by the way, the reason that they probably lost control is because unlike the Israeli military, they are not just allowed to massacre people who they see as a threat. If this was Israel who was distributing the aid, and they were not just next to it, they would have just committed a humongous massacre and said, anyone who comes near will massacre you. That's what we're going to see. You know, that's what we're going to do, you know? Like, it's ridiculous. The contractors had reportedly fired shots in the air. See, like, this is the difference. The Israeli army was then sent to try and evacuate the contractors, according to the reports. We were also hearing reports of military helicopters that were firing in the vicinity, also to try and get the crowds to disperse. But it's worth noting how we got here in the first place. This was an incredibly controversial plan for humanitarian assistance after the Israeli government had blockaded any type of aid for nearly 3 months. Throughout the war, there was very little aid going into Gaza to begin with, so people had been hungry, and there has been malnutrition among women and children. I mean, it's ridiculous. I just want to see if there's any videos of this. Here you go. This is just the new aid is just not working. Hind Khoury is talking about it. Footage shows desperate Palestinians, gradual opening of aid centres.
There is no famine in Gaza Strip.
It's so obvious that this has been the case, by the way, as well. That there is a famine in Gaza. Like, it's very obvious.
It's simply not true.
They let in a trickle of aid and then are surprised by what happened. What do you... I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just utterly ridiculous. The PFLP warned against people approaching it because they said it would be a death trap. But it's also, by the way, this is literally just a plan to displace Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. Like, it's literally just a plan to displace Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. It's not like some humanitarian thing. It is part of displacing Palestinians and expelling them from their homeland. I mean, here's someone talking about this, like people getting killed on a full stomach. I was always told as a child that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I just want to see if they talk about it. Unshakable. The US government has announced a new mechanism for delivering food to Gaza. The Gaza humanitarian... I'm just going to say it. I don't think people who have a plan to expel you from the land should be giving you advice. Should be the ones allowed to deliver aid. And yeah, Shakespeare, I have actually mentioned Yishai Fleischer. Thank you very much for the $2. But yeah, I've mentioned Yishai Fleischer. I've spoken about him in Lonerbox's meetup with him. I actually spoke about it 2 streams ago. Vocabulary NGOs and charities is supposedly set to restart food distribution by the end of May and hand out 300 million meals. Israel, for its part, has volunteered to secure the humanitarian process while maintaining its killing activities. Like, I'm not sure that people killing and expelling are the people who will be, distributing aid fairly, equally, anything like this. I think it is rather just ridiculous to make any claim like this. It's disgusting, and I just... is anyone really surprised by, what is currently unfolding in the Gaza Strip? There are actually many more photos and videos, but... red and blue vest covering their faces. I'm just seeing if there's anyone posting any more things and any more decent videos. Good for the Palestinians. They should just be able to take that aid and take it all. Israel and America shouldn't be handing out tiny bits of aid to people, and also doing it in a way that is clearly politicized and has nothing to do with actually, wanting to give Palestinians, giving Palestinians a tiny amount of it. Here's Mohammed Shehadeh talking about it. Gazans dismantled Israel's GHF concentration camp and brought home the pieces. Now it's becoming a meme of how it started versus how it's going. Kif Sarat? Kif Qanat? Is that how you say it? Kif Qanat? Kif Sarat? I don't know actually how you pronounce that in Palestinian Arabic. But yeah, I mean, it's just hardly surprising. You starve people, they see aid, it's badly managed because people were not interested in giving people aid properly. It's just ridiculous. It's just utterly ridiculous. Here's the ICRC talking about it. Good afternoon. The International Committee of the Red Cross is not involved in aid distribution. We can only work under aid modalities that respect the core humanitarian principles of impartiality, humanity, and independence. No fucking shit. No fucking shit. Israel doing these kind of things as I say, the people doing genocide are not going to be respecting the basic rights of Palestinians, and I think that's a very important thing. And yet, no, I don't really read Arabic. I don't read Arabic. I can read Farsi, and they're very similar. So there's just a few different words, And you look at this. Any decent humanitarian organization is saying, yeah, I'm not going to participate in that. And then it's just the government who says, I think that Palestine needs to be turned into real estate and that is a good thing. It's so pathetic and ridiculous, It's so pathetic and ridiculous that we even reach this point and that, Western governments are not doing anything more about it. And that Israel is allowed to still get away with this, I'll see if Quds News Network have posted anything about it as well. Is anyone else's Twitter also broken over the last few days? Mine is just not working properly. I'm not really sure what it is. I'm just having a double check if I can find anything more about it. The excavated pathway. Farsi Chad, Chris. Damn. Yeah, I mean, I think people rather people call it Persian. But yeah, I'm just checking if there's any people who are talking or have any other content about it. I'll see if there's any videos on YouTube as well. No, it's just Middle East Eye posting fucking short form videos. There's not much here. There's not much here on YouTube as of yet. But yeah, I mean, it's hardly ridiculous. I mean, here are just more photos and videos of it. Like, look at this. Like, look at this. It's so fucking horrible and dystopian. You make all these people walk so far, and you give them, this tiny amount of aid, and you use it as a means so you can try and expel them. You use it to just increase their suffering. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I mean, my main problem with Twitter is I really want to pay for Twitter Blue, and I know this will probably upset some of you, but the reason that I want to is because it's so limiting not being able to edit tweets, that it's so limiting not being able to basically tweet more than 200 odd characters. But yeah, it's just this is probably one of the most heinous and important events happening in recent weeks, in recent months, because it just shows you that this was never about like trying to establish a meaningful way of supplying aid to Palestinians, that it was literally just about Israel trying to expel people and trying to create a basic situation where it could do that. This is shameful. This whole fucking thing is utterly shameful and disgusting, you know? It's just, like, even this per photo has obviously kept coming up because I've just had it on this side of the thing. But yeah, I mean, like, are we surprised that we reached this point? Are we surprised that we reached this point? Like, you know, are we surprised? Does anyone think that this is like some unusual outcome? Israel has never given a fuck about the Palestinians. They basically think that an Israeli soldier's life is worth more than a Palestinian's. They literally take Palestinians as human shields. Of course they're going to starve people. Of course they're going to expel people. Of course they're going to do these kind of things because this was not good. This is not moral. This is not a war. This is a genocide. This is politicized aid. This is a copied tactic from the British Empire. I think I saw someone talking about this. Actually, Alex DeVille talks about it in his recent thing. I'll see if I can actually, what he actually said. See what it actually says here. He says it here. No, he doesn't. Malay? Here we go. Israel is now proposing a new aid scheme that will provide essential rations to screened individuals who will be notified by cell phone message where and when they should report to pick up food packages, hygiene kits and medical supplies after their IDs have been verified by face recognition software. I am sorry, but that level of surveillance is fucking disgusting. Like, it's just utterly immoral, unjustifiable that they are basically doing this so they can find Palestinians, so they can politicize aid, so they can terrify people who have family members who may be involved in militancy or resistance, or maybe, I don't even know, maybe involved in the government. Israel does these kind of things so they can basically target more Palestinians. This was never some like good or moral thing. This was never like an interesting or like innovative way to distribute aid. This was much more undergirded by a desire to basically surveil Palestinians even more and to involve aid in Israel's war effort. And I mean, he actually talks about it here. Each package would be sufficient for a family for several days, after which the designated family member will be notified by text to return for another ration. Sorry, excuse me. Each package would be sufficient for a family for several... I just read that. The US is now championing the scheme, proposing to use the American private military contractors, along with something called the Gaza Humanitarian Organization, a new agency that is being built from scratch. This surveillance humanitarianism, the food targeting counterpart to the IOF's algorithms that select whom to bomb, Israel will provide the bare minimum to sustain life to those who show to its satisfaction that they're compliant. It's disgusting. It's really, really evil. It's also an individualized version of late colonial counterinsurgency as practiced by Britain in Malaya in the 1950s, when the army defeated communist guerrillas by controlling the entire food supply, feeding those in protected villages and starving those outside. It's just a plan to do starvation where they're basically claiming, hey, we're going to supply aid to you. It's a really sadistically evil expression of, you know, the way in which Israel knows that it will defeat Hamas, basically, which is by using starvation, which is by targeting civilians, which is by basically making them reliant on the IOF and then expelling them. Israel is only going to defeat Hamas through starvation and expulsion. It has no other option because it doesn't want to accede to the fact that it cannot defeat Hamas militarily after a year of destroying the Gaza Strip, wiping out almost everything there. They have totally failed to defeat Hamas, and they've just ended up with this, which is just sadistic. It is sadistic. And also on this point, one thing you really need to realise is like the fallout thing of war never changes, although war definitely does change in some senses. Colonialism really does never change. Like, colonialism has variations, different examples of like different manifestations of it, settler colonialism, classical colonialism, and all of these different facets. But the truth is that, like, the Zionist project will just copy previous colonial tactics, and this is not some, like, big secret that Israel was going to do this. Like, Israel said there will be a total blockade of Gaza. Yoav Gallant, who Gila Klein called a really good guy, Gila Klein's really good guy, said on, what was it, the 17th of... on the 9th... Oh god, I clicked on the Times of Israel. There's going to be a PC explosion in a second. Here's the really great guy from Gila Klein.
מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
This is also why it's so mad that Gila Klein did not... Like, this quote is really famous. Like, a lot of people spoke about this and said, hey, there is something very sadistic about to happen in the Gaza Strip. And I genuinely don't believe that this is, like, something that she didn't know. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be frank with you. I just think that she is pro-Israel. But yeah, it's mad. It's mad. Like, you look at this and you just, this was what Israel had always planned. They just updated it, and they've just changed it slightly, and they've come up with some version that they can sell to the world and be like, yeah, it's okay, it's okay, it's doable. But yeah, Ethan did defend that. I mentioned that in my video, that Ethan was like, well, he said it just after October the 7th, and you have to understand Israelis and how they feel and all of these things. And it's just like, oh, it's mad. It's genuinely mad to say. It's genuinely mad to say. And hold on. This is surveillance here we go. The UN and liberal humanitarians are horrified. One of the founding principles of humanitarian law is that actual starvation should be prevented, even if it means the controlling power forgoes military opportunity. As Israel moved to suffocate UNRWA, the UN asked the ICJ in The Hague to provide an advisory opinion on Israel's obligations to cooperate with UN bodies. Public hearings were held in the week of 28th of April. Israel didn't participate in its written statements. It dismissed the case as patently biased and one-sided. It claimed that UNRWA staff had participated in the 7th of October, that the agency is hostile to Israel, and that Israel is under no obligation to cooperate with any international organization unless it chooses to do so, because its security requirements are overriding. It dismissed the UN investigations into allegations and the measures taken to ensure neutrality, impartiality, and end-to-end monitoring of relief supplies. And on the topic of what languages I speak, Shakespeare, thank you for your donation. I speak, I don't really speak any apart from English properly. I could once upon a time speak German much better than I can now, because I haven't studied it in like a really long time, and I don't talk it with anyone, so my German is pretty shit. I mean, I can read it, and I can, if I hear people speaking, I can understand it. And like when I was watching Das Leben der Anderen, which is The Lives of Others, which is a German film. With this, obviously, I know it's saying, like, with the subtitles, I can understand it. But when there's subtitles, I can kind of get what they're saying. And, like, I can kind of, understand it. But, yeah. But, yeah, like, hold on. Yeah, this is just, like, mad. It's just mad. Might Israel's new aid scheme feed the starving Palestinians, satisfying the demand for absolute security? The outline plan, shared with journalists, would involve 4 distribution centres and reach only 60% of the population. By the way, this is, I think, a really important thing to note. Ja, verstehe ich. Verstehe? Ich verstehe? Ja, ich verstehe. Deutlich verstehe ich. Aid agencies run about 400 locations. That's just mad. Like, compare this to, like, established things. Thank you, Matthew Zifchuk, for becoming a member. But, like, aid agencies ran about 400 locations before the blockade. Like, look at that. 4 distribution centres where people have to, where 4 centres where people have to walk miles to get to. And that's just it. It's it. Heute ist mein Deutsch total schlecht. Habe ich Deutsch nicht für vielleicht 4 oder 5 Jahre gesprochen. Ich habe vergessen, wie man auf Deutsch regularly sagen? Weiß ich nicht. Ich bin Ausländer. I'm a foreigner. Ich bin ein Berliner. But yeah, just like, that might keep enough people fed to avoid the IPC's arcane threshold for famine, which requires 20% of the population to fall short of certain measurements for access to food, malnutrition, and elevated death rates. But it would be gaming the system, not preventing widespread starvation. It's just mad. Like, reading this from, like, Alex DeVille, one of the foremost experts in Palestine. In famine, is saying these things. Alex DeVille, a foremost expert in famine, is saying these kind of things, you know? You just read that and, I don't know. Gaza, shoot. That's what I was looking for. Hold on, I just want to click and see where this takes us to. So this is the article he recommended reading on it. By the way, there was also an investigation opened into this. Like, literally, how was this allowed to happen? Like, how was this allowed to happen? Like, how? Swiss authorities exploring probe into US-backed Gaza aid group. Geneva, Swiss authorities... right, this is a shitty article. Hold on, let me just have a look. But actually, you know what? It doesn't really matter. Basically, there was already a plan to investigate this group. They said that they were going to be ready by May. They're clearly not ready. They failed on literally the first day. The singular first day. They completely failed in what they were doing. It's also I'm sorry, I cannot read Farsi that's that small. Hold on, I'll have to zoom in. خوشحال که میشنم فارسی بلد هستید. خیلی متشکرم. Sepas Guzaram, as the Persians say. 2 non-profit organizations with identical names, one in the United States and did I just zoom in? Other in Switzerland, 2 private companies that provide security services, and 1 American attorney who specializes in tax bureaucracy. Hiding behind the US humanitarian aid plan for the Gaza Strip are NGOs registered in non-transparent jurisdictions and 2 American security companies. The public will be the last to know. A Shmorim expose published by the Kalakist. This isn't even that long an article, so I'll go over it. Over the past week, a new and mysterious Swiss NGO has hit the headlines. According to various reports, the organisation in question is supposed to operate humanitarian aid program that Israel has initiated for the Gaza Strip. Shmorim can now reveal that the Swiss NGO is not the only organisation that is slated to operate in Gaza. Even before it was established, an NGO with an identical name was registered in the US. Moreover, the American NGO has another link to the Israeli aid plan for Gaza. The American attorney who was involved in registering it was also responsible for registering Safe Research Solutions, LLC, one of the two private companies that provided security services in Gaza during the most recent ceasefire. Like, there's funny goings on here. There are funny goings on here. I'm pretty sure that one of the things that might be going on here is that Israel, is that there are a lot of people profiting this. But it says it's a non-profit, but, there are other ways. And that is actually an obscene amount of languages. I wish I could speak French, I think one day I'll force myself to learn it. Je parle un petit peu français. The very establishment of these non-profits, the fact that they were registered through private attorneys and were registered in jurisdictions that have gained a reputation for facilitating a lack of transparency, Switzerland and Delaware in the cases of non-profit, and Wyoming in the cases of the private security company. Actually, I don't even know what I'm fucking saying. Like, these people are profiting off genocide. Like, yeah, someone just put Matthew just put money is the answer. Like, yeah, it's fucking money. You're paying private contractors. You're going, we're buying Israeli products, we're doing this, we're doing these things. It's kind of like, it's kind of, I think it's pretty obvious that this never had the best interest of Palestinians. Baguette. J'adore baguette. I was gonna say something then, which I just shouldn't have said. But yeah. All seem to suggest the anonymous parties behind them do not want the information about the humanitarian aid and the billions of dollars it is expected to cost to be accessible to the public. Yeah, that's pretty weird, isn't it? Like, they are profiting off aid. By the way, I think I might upload some of this as a YouTube video, like talking about the aid foundation, and just use parts of the stream. I think it might be a good idea, because, yeah. Either way, those involved are readying to commence operations on the ground. Over the past few days, the American security company SRS started recruiting workers for what it refers to as a new humanitarian aid mission in the Middle East. This would seem to indicate that the plans are about to put into action a humanitarian plan, a Swiss non-profit. Speaking to the media at the US Embassy in Jerusalem, Mike Huckabee revealed some details of the new humanitarian aid plan for Gaza. Today we are announcing that the process is ongoing. It is launched, Huckabee said. President Trump wants food to be distributed in Gaza safely and effectively in a manner that Hamas will not be able to get its hand on the aid. There will be no threat to human life. I mean, already there's a threat to human life within one day because it did not work, because this was not an interesting thing, because this is not something that they actually wanted to do. I'm from the UK, if you couldn't tell. US Ambassador Mike Huckabee visiting the Western Wall. Very cool. Thank you, Mike. Huckabee added that humanitarian aid organizations from around the world be part of the plan, but added that he would not reveal their names. The Israelis are going to be involved in providing necessary military security because it is a war zone, but they will not be involved in the distribution of the food, or even in the bringing of the food into Gaza. Any allegation that the Israelis don't care about humanitarian aid is absolutely false, he added. By the way, this is like saying, they don't care about, allowing food in. Israel doesn't want food. Making the claim that, Israel's, they're doing this out of the goodness of their heart. It's the biggest lie in the world. Honestly, the idea that they're just doing this because, they're so kind, because they love the Palestinians and all of these things, it's ridiculous. They are only doing this for one exclusive reason, which is so they can expel Palestinians. He also said that private companies would provide security for aid workers distributing food in Gaza. Huckabee's comments came a day after worldwide reports about a humanitarian aid organisation created by an organisation called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. The plan was presented to the UN, ascribed to Israel, and roundly criticised. By the way, if these organisations are criticising you, I think you probably shouldn't be doing these things. According to various reports, GHF was registered in Geneva in February this year. The individuals listed in the organisation's registration documents appear to have absolutely no connection to humanitarian aid. The president of GHF is an Armenian national called David Papazian, who was ousted from his position as the CEO of the Armenian National Interest Fund in January of 2024. He is now chairman of the board of low-cost fly airline Flyana, and is known to have especially good connections to the UAE. Ah, of course, this is, by the way, why you should never, ever offer anything positive about the UAE. The UAE are so deeply involved in the genocide of the Palestinian people. They are friendly with, they are friendly with the state of Israel. Emily, I don't know what those words mean. I don't know what those words mean. Alongside Papazian, there are also 2 lawyers registered as members of the non-profit, an American called Loic Henderson and David Kohler from Switzerland. Papazian and Kohler refused to answer Shmorim's questions, while Henderson said that he was not willing to address the subject. American non-profit 2. Shmorim can now reveal that an additional non-profit with exactly the same name was registered in the US in November last year, 4 months before the Swiss organization was established. The US version of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was registered in Delaware by James H. Cundiff, an attorney who usually specializes in tax planning and trust funds for super wealthy. Oh, really? Isn't it very interesting that this is sort of a thing going on? Isn't this just like a very interesting thing that it's like an attorney who specializes in tax planning and trust funds for super wealthy? As already mentioned, Cundiff was also the attorney who registered Safe Reach Solutions, one of the 2 American companies that was responsible for security checks on Palestinian vehicles in Gaza during the last ceasefire and ensuring that Hamas did not smuggle weapons to northern Gaza. While it is not known what connection exists, if any, between the American and Swiss non-profits, it is worth noting on Feb 7th, just 4 days before the registration of the Swiss organisation, the American one announced that it was changing its name and removing any reference to Gaza. Instead, the organisation would be known as For Those in Need Foundation. This is not the only connection between organisations and companies that are apparently planning to operate in Gaza. During the last few days, SRS started to recruit workers for what it called a humanitarian mission in the Middle East. When Shmorim sent an email inquiring about possible employment, the reply rather surprisingly came from UG Solutions, the second American company that operated in Gaza during the ceasefire. With details of job offering on its website, UG Solutions said that it is looking to recruit highly skilled security professionals. They didn't do very well today. They're not very skilled, are they? Yeah. I mean, it's not really corruption. It's that there are an insane amount of opportunists who literally want to make profit off what is happening in Gaza. Like, they want to make money off what is happening in the Gaza Strip, you know? It's exactly what they want to do. With combat high security. This mission involves securing key infrastructure, facilitating humanitarian efforts, and ensuring stability in a dynamic environment. I mean, this is a very interesting article. I'll put a link to it. Hold on. There you go. There's the link. Oh, I've accidentally just clicked my own link. Pin message. Yeah, right. And I guess that's kind of it. I'll just check if there's any like tiny follow-ups. Hold on, I'm just on Twitter. Come on. Sorry, I'm just being posted conspiracy videos about how the Plymouth driver yesterday was not who they said it was. I don't know what the hell this is. Very strange. Very, very, very strange. Ministry of Interior.
Thousands of people. Pictures of crowds, thousands of people, Palestinians in southern Gaza, crowding to an aid distribution point in the south, in Rafah, that was set up several hours ago, and about an hour ago, we got these first pictures in showing absolute scenes of chaos. People storming towards the aid distribution centre as best they could, young and...
I've replaced the donation message. I've replaced the pinned message. So if anyone has the capacity, you're more than welcome to donate to the Shard family that has just been put in by Hyperj.
Old alike. Injured and the able were also trying to get up that hill that you can see there on your screens, trying to get to any aid that was being distributed. This was set up by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. This is a US-backed, Israeli-backed organization that had said that it would set up aid distribution.
I like how there are now two competing people who are like saying how long the delay is.
Distribution points in Gaza and start distributing aid in certain areas. It was roundly criticised by the UN and other aid organisations as being unprofessional and not the way to distribute aid in Gaza or indeed anywhere, because these sorts of scenes then break out. We had heard that shots had to be fired to try to keep people back from the distribution centre. They then said that calm was restored.
Sorry. Enough about me being muted. Enough about it. By the way, also, this is one of the problems with GoFundMe's. There are two people posting it, and I guess people can see the links in stream, but it's just difficult. It's very difficult when it comes to doing with these, because there are so many people that you would like to help and support. It's hard, it's hard. It's hard to like support one individual, to pick someone, and I feel so cruel choosing one person. But yeah. I was just, it's not engagement farming. Be quiet. It's not true. But yeah, I guess this is the closing point. This was a choice to make money off genocide. This was not a choice about, like, good things. This is not a choice about doing good things for the Palestinian people, It is not a choice about starvation. Yeah, don't worry, Hyperj. I'm happy to post them, and I appreciate if people can donate, if they can, if they want to, if they have the capacity. But it's very difficult, it's hard because it's difficult to just choose one person. Although, it's difficult to choose people to donate to. Like, it feels cruel. No, I'll accept that I was muted. I will accept that I was muted. But yeah, and that's where I'll close the discussion of that, I'll be honest. That's where I'll close the discussion of that. And what I want to talk about now is... Now, in the UK, this is the leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch. And it's quite funny, because Kemi Badenoch is, someone spearheading hatred against migrants to the UK. Her full name is Olukemi Olufunto Badenoch, née Adegoke. Adegoke is her like not unmarried name. Who's her husband? Doesn't say who her husband is. But anyway, she's the leader of the Conservative Party. She has also been one of the key people on like a campaign against kneecap. She really hates kneecap. So the Conservative Party is the right-wing party in the UK.
The Prime Minister joined with Mr Macron.
Well, actually, sorry, I retract my previous comment. All of them are the right-wing parties in the UK.
And Mr Carney in criticising Israel. Mr Netanyahu responded by accusing him of supporting murderers, rapists and baby killers. Was the Israeli leader right to say that?
Well, I think the first thing to say on this issue is that if Hamas is praising your actions, you've probably done something wrong.
This is also what I mean. Even at the highest levels, like this is a leader of an opposition party. This is like slop from Twitter, like slop that this is like slop that is appreciated by the stupidest people on the internet, and you just go, well, if Hamas is praising your actions, that means that you've done something wrong. It's like, what? Hamas are obviously going to say, hey, stop starving the vast majority of people in the Gaza Strip. Hamas officials, you know, have friends. They have people who aren't even militants. And this is just what this person has to say.
Hamas is a terrorist group that is, making the lives of the people in Gaza, the Palestinians in Gaza.
That's what Mr. Netanyahu
horrible.
said.
And
Are you agreeing with his language?
So what I'm saying is that Israel is fighting a war where they want to get 58 hostages who have not been returned. That is what all of this is about. And they have said there won't be a ceasefire until they get their people back. What we need to make sure is that we're on the side
that is not...
that is going to...
By the way, it's also just categorically not what Israel is doing. What Israel is doing... also, by the way, if you want to see how insane of a claim this is to actually make, like how outrageous of a claim this is to actually make, here's Haaretz. A punch in the gut. Israeli army places returning the hostages at the bottom of its Gaza campaign goals, despite its promises to families. Operational orders presented to army commanders listed defeating Hamas as top priority for the expanded Gaza operation, with returning the hostages last, contrary to assurances by the chief of staff. Like, look, it literally says this. They say that returning hostages doesn't matter. They have killed many, many, many of their own hostages. Like, Gideon's Chariots is about destroying the Gaza Strip, making life impossible there, and expelling the population of the Gaza Strip, you know. This is what they're interested in. It's not, you know, fighting a war for their existential survival, you know.
To eradicate Hamas. We need that to happen if we're ever going to get a two-state solution.
Also, eradicating Hamas is horrifying language to trade in, whilst the Israeli military is exterminating hundreds of people every day, you know?
And end this war.
But does that mean that you, A, support the current Israeli action, and that actually you think that Mr. Netanyahu's language on this is justified?
I'm not here to police the language of the Prime Minister of Israel.
I'm not asking you to police it. I'm asking...
What he...
Please, everybody donate. Hold on. I was just about to link something.
He has said...
I just want to... I probably shouldn't link it like that. Sorry, I've literally just removed it so I can link something. But thank you for your incredibly kind donation. I just want to link... What? Hold on. There's a link to the article.
People need to know where you stand.
Yeah, but I've been very clear where I stand. Hamas is a terrorist group. They are not our friends.
I'm talking about...
Hamas is a terrorist group. Like, that's just the argument. Hamas is a terrorist group. There are so many people in Israel who talk about this and defending and talking about this whilst Israel is starving 2 million people is obscene.
If I may finish. Yes, but it's all related. Who funds Hamas? Iran. An enemy of this country.
Who funds Israel? It's insane.
Enemy of this country. Israel is fighting a proxy war on behalf of the UK, just like Ukraine.
Israel is fighting a proxy war on behalf of the UK. It's just not true. It's just categorically untrue. It's categorically untrue that this is what Israel is doing. Israel is fighting against indigenous people who want liberation of the land. That's the truth of it.
Is on behalf of the Western Europe against Russia. We have to get serious. We have to get serious. There was a terrorist plot in London against the Israeli embassy. We saw 2 Jewish members of the Israeli embassy in DC killed. Whose side are we on? We need to make sure that the hostages are returned. No one wants to see a war in Gaza. Palestinians are suffering, and Netanyahu is complaining.
She just said, eradicate Hamas. No one wants to see a war there. Like, you are literally saying this, that you want to see it, you know?
He thinks our leaders are carrying out the wrong action. He has every right to say that. What I want to see...
He has every right to say that they should still be allowed to starve people. I mean, this is so insane. This is so insane. Kemi Badenoch is allowed to say this in the UK. Yeah, sorry, I didn't see that. Sorry, I almost just timed you out. Paste in message. There you go. There are the 2 things. But yeah, like, you can just say this, and this is legal. But NICAP are the ones being targeted. Like, this is a senior government official basically endorsing the genocide of the Palestinian people, and that's just okay.
is Keir Starmer making sure that he is on the right side of British national interest. That cannot be on the side of Hamas.
I'm asking you about the Israeli language and Israeli action. Are you actually equating the Israeli action in Gaza with Ukrainians?
So Israel is fighting a war. Israel is fighting a war. It is not for me to police exactly how they are doing that. It is not a genocide, as people...
I would say, you know, as a key ally of Israel, as someone who's meant to abide by humanitarian law, it kind of is for you to, you know, sort of police what they are doing. But, you know...
Is saying there are a lot of things which we can criticize Israel on, which I have done in terms of how they may carry out some of these actions. But the bottom line is they are fighting a terrorist group that is trying to destroy that country.
That's literally what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. Are we not meant to be an ally of the Palestinians as well? Israel is actively trying to wipe out the Palestinian people.
They want to get their hostages back. And if Hamas is praising the actions of Macron and Starmer, something is not right.
This morning,
that is where we need to...
It's just insane that you can basically say that. That you can basically say the actions of Starmer is not right because Hamas support that?
It doesn't sound like you're criticising anything that the Israelis do.
That's not true. I have criticised things before, but right now there are 50...
What has she criticised?
58 hostages. There are 58 hostages who have not been returned home. If you sat where I sat and spoke to the mothers of those hostages, like I did, who were talking just a year ago, 2 years ago, about posters of their children being ripped down while they hadn't come home, I think that we need to recognise this is a very difficult situation, but I do not want to be in a position where a terrorist group is praising my actions. And that is where Kiss...
That's it. This is just it. A terrorist group praises your actions and that's it. By the way, here's like a thing that happened in the UK today. You're being forced to be anglicised and to listen to some British politics. Get her out of here, boo. More than 800 lawyers and judges call on UK to sanction Israel over Gaza war. Prime Minister urged to take concrete steps. More than 800 lawyers, academics and retired judges have called on UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer to sanction the Israeli government and take steps at the UN Security Council to expel Israel as a UN member state. In an open letter sent to UK Prime Minister Starmer this week, the signatories, who include former Supreme Court judges Lord Sumption and Lord Wilson, say there is mounting evidence that genocide is being perpetrated. It's very obvious that it is what is happening there. Your government must act now before it is too late, the letter says, referring to the ongoing Israeli abuses in the besieged territory. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, you can sort of say that, but, like, those abuses have been going on for a very long time. Like, the UK government says that it's committed to a two-state solution. You know? It's kind of mad, like, how depraved British politicians are. I don't even know if she says she supports a two-state solution. I mean, she also says there's a longer version of this clip of her saying...
Do you agree with the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown?
Starmer has found himself. I do not think that we should be doing anything that is not in the national interest of this country. An Iran-backed terrorist organisation is not one that we should be getting praise from.
It's just like, so, you know, it's just, hold on. There's also this. So this is also from the same interview.
It's not a genocide, as people are saying. There are a lot of things which we can criticize Israel on, which I have done in terms of how they may carry out some of these actions. But the bottom line is they are fighting a terrorist group that is trying to destroy that country. They want to get their hostages back.
So, like, Israel is allowed to just do whatever. This is, by the way, oh my god, I actually read a brilliant article about this today, because obviously I was reading it for when I was going to talk about Lonerbox later. So hold on, let me just, it's here. So this is from The Sovereign Right to Kill, a critical appraisal of Israel's shoot-to-kill policy in Gaza. So wait, just read this. In 1927, Elbridge Colby developed this legal analysis to justify the exclusion of natives and colonized people from the scope of international law regulating armed conflict. Natives, Colby argued, do not observe the individual decencies of civilized regular soldiers, nor do they distinguish between combatants and non-combatants, in their own as well as in the enemy personnel. In effect, Western regular forces must use more brutal means, which he characterized as a humanitarian good, because the loss of life is probably far less than might have been sustained in prolonged operations. Like, this is just an insane thing to say. There's also another example of this where they talk about Moses A. Dirk highlighted how in the 1864, the United States applied the Lieber Code regulating its conduct of soldiers in hostilities in its confrontation with the Confederacy as it simultaneously massacred 200 members of the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes. The military regulations did not apply to the treatment of native tribes, and no one was prosecuted in the subsequent US investigation of the mass killings. It's genuinely mad. This is like nothing new. When I said colonialism never changes, you know?
And if Hamas is praising the actions of Macron and Starmer, something is not right.
This morning,
that is where we need
this morning
to,
it doesn't sound like you're criticising anything that the Israelis do.
That's not true. I have criticised things before, but right now there are 58 hostages. There are 58 hostages who have not been returned home. If you sat where I sat and spoke to the mothers of those hostages, like I did, who were talking just a year ago, 2 years ago, about
I saw this.
pictures of their children being ripped down while they hadn't come home. I think that we need to recognise this is a very...
Also, by the way, like when they go, oh, the posters got ripped down, at least the UK government was not justifying the extermination of Palestinians.
difficult situation. But I do not want to be in a...
Sorry, the UK government has sat there and justified the extermination of Palestinians, unequivocally supported, and you are crying about a poster being ripped down.
Position where a terrorist group is praising my actions, and that is where Keir Starmer has found himself. I do not think that we should be doing anything that is not in the national interest of this country. An Iran-backed terrorist organisation is not one that we should be getting praise from.
You attacked the Prime Minister over the Chagos Islands deal, but your party started those negotiations, and you too...
Right, that's now about the Chagos Islands, which I have no interest in trying to cover on my stream, because it is not at all my area of expertise. But yeah, I mean, like, that's just the state of the United Kingdom. Like, this is just the state of our country, you know? That's literally it. It's literally just... That is it. Just people just justifying genocide, you know? It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Right. Now we get into the meat of the stream. You know, the meat of the stream of talking about everyone's favourite Lonerbox. Great guy. Knows how sniping jobs work. Great guy, went on a great trip where he interviewed loads of Palestinians and met with his best friend Yishai Fleischer, and so yeah, I think it's time to talk about this. Now, I've skipped the first 20 odd minutes of this because I think that genuinely you don't need to hear what he's talking about, because he's actually giving like a decent appraisal of what happened in the Great March of Return, and yeah, so here we go. All right, let's just get into it.
The organizers of this protest, who kept on insisting they were non-violent, were actually giving people money and telling them where to fly their kites. Now, here you've got the problem.
Hold on.
It's, you start seeing the first use of live ammunition. 18 people are killed. The Human Rights Report does give you a few biographies about a few of these people and how they were killed. They tell you about one person who was just walking 150 meters away from the fence, just on his own, and he's shot in the leg, and then I think it goes through one leg and hits the other leg.
So if you don't know, the Great March of Return is like it's an expression of non-violent Palestinian resistance, and Lonerbox is going to spend absolutely ages here explaining why actually the UN is wrong, the pro-Pallies are crazy, and just before we start, I want to read you again a piece from what this says. So, from Nora Erekat's Great March of Return. Harith Asamak, a 14-year-old Palestinian boy with a group of boys near the Al-Bureji refugee camp in Gaza, when his friend 13-year-old Izzadin Samak was lethally shot, he shares that the boys were collecting stones and sitting idly when an Israeli soldier targeted Izzadin. Harith explains, "We sat down by a dirt pile about 300 metres from the fence, the Jakar Road. Izzadin sat on a sack of stones in front of us. 2 other guys were sitting with us. Suddenly we heard live gunfire. Izzadin raised his right arm, lowered it and stayed still. Ibrahim and I tried to pull him towards a shelter with us, and then I saw there was blood pouring down his back, all the way down to his knees. He was unconscious." Harith's testimony indicates that Izzadin was not participating directly in hostilities at the time of his targeting. He was collecting stones, presumably to be thrown at the militarized fence, but given the distance from the defense, the young age of the boys, and the fact that these are stones, Izzadin did not objectively pose a threat. And Lonerbox will proceed to talk about how there are militants and justify it.
Basically ruins both of his legs. So you get stories like that. But that's basically what you get from the Human Rights Report. You get 18 killed, 703 wounded. doesn't seem like there was any indication of what you would call either an immediate threat to life or threat of harm under policing law, but you also, according to them, don't see any example of participation in hostilities. When you get to the events that happened between, because I guess people died in the first one, or just because more people got involved, you start to see people on the Palestinian side getting more aggressive. So now it's not just stones and tires and people approaching the fence.
So also, by the way, there's an argument that Lonerbox makes throughout this video, which is a very insane argument to make, because on the first day, 100 Israeli snipers were deployed even before the march had begun. I don't think people who are... Sorry, you said that my voice is much louder. I don't think you can make out that... Sorry, excuse me. I think if you are deploying a ton of snipers to an area, you cannot basically go on to say, well, you know, it was the other people who made it violent and they did all these violent things. If you are deploying hundreds of snipers which are used over and over again against you know, basically innocent people, I'm not so sure that you can ever make any decent argument to try and explain why that's okay. I'll just show you. That's the wrong one. Hold on 1 second. Downloads. Right, here we go. Here's the exact thing. Here you go. On the 30th of March, the Israeli military responded by using lethal force against unarmed protesters as a matter of policy. On the first day of the protest, 30,000 Palestinians participated in the civil demonstration in various sites along the eastern perimeter of Gaza. Israeli troops shot to kill 15 protesters and injured 1,416. Sorry, 1 second, actually. I just want to start. Hold on 1 second. Your audio is clipping. Is my audio clipping? Are you sure about that? I don't think... who's downplaying Kanye's actions? Kanye's actions are not, like, good. Kanye is a genuine anti-Semite. Like, Kanye was saying some insane things. Although Kanye has recently said that he's given up on anti-Semitism, hasn't he? But yeah, hold on. I'll just go back to this. So on the first day, 30,000 protested and 15 protesters were killed and injured 1,416 others who posed no imminent threat to Israeli troops, civilians, or military infrastructure. In the days preceding the mass demonstration, the Israeli army's chief of staff, General Gadi Eisenkot, announced that 100 Israeli snipers would be deployed to the perimeter and are instructed to use a lot of force. The day after the demonstrations, Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman said there would be no Israeli investigation of the killings and that the government would not cooperate with any international inquiry as called for by the UN Secretary General and the EU. So, like, they just straight away said, we're not going to investigate this with any international organizations. So why do you think people might have escalated and targeted the border wall increasingly? Like, you can see very clearly here that Israel says, we're not going to hold anyone accountable. We're going to injure and wound an obscene amount of people, and there's nothing that you can do about it.
Now it's slingshotting. Now it's people taking tear gas canisters that were dropped and throwing them back at the IDF. Now there's people sending...
Now there's people doing these things. Wow, that's so awful. You know, throwing the tear gas which you are using against people. Awful.
...in kites and incendiary balloons that are basically setting fires across the fence. You have a few examples of people very strategically using smoke from the tires and directing it along with the wind so they can hide behind them and move forward in a very coordinated way. They have people who are ripping apart the barbed wire at the buffer area, like the 30-meter area. They have people cut...
By the way, this is like, he genuinely makes the argument that he's targeting the thing. Yeah, defending Kanye is absolutely insane. Like, you can't defend Kanye.
The fence as well. And what you also had was that there were, on social media, there were self-declared units dedicated to doing this. So you had units on Facebook and other social media accounts who were dedicated towards moving the tires forward to screen people coming forth. You had dedicated units for fence cutting. You had dedicated units for Molotov cocktails or incendiary balloons. Whether or not they were from any party or not is hard to say, but one member of these units actually told the UN Commission that they were supported by the HNC with money, that the organizers of this protest, who kept on insisting they were non-violent, were actually giving people money and telling them where to fly their kites. Now here you've got the problem, is that you've got Hamas, PIJ, etc., their political wings, not their militant wings, giving people instructions for how to attack the border fence.
It's also, by the way, I don't care if people attack a border fence. Like, genuinely, Palestinians are refugees who are kept within a horrifying space, like a tiny, tiny, tiny place that they are not allowed to leave. They are denied any right to go and live a normal, decent, or moral life, you know? And your thing is saying, oh, well, you know, they attacked the border fence. Are you surprised? Like, are you surprised?
Or giving people encouragement for how to attack the border fence. So you get into a more murky area.
So the kites that they flew were incendiary kites, which were used to burn agricultural land on the other side of the border fence.
Yeah. But we'll keep going. Because again, the UN Commission finds once more that...
Exactly. The fence should not be there. And this is, by the way, if you want to understand the difference between, like, Lonerbox and someone who actually cares about Palestine, someone who has degrees in this, what Nora Erakat talks about in this whole article is how Israel has long securitized Palestinians returning as... like a horrible thing, that it's like a major threat, that it's like, oh, if they return... Because it's always been this way. Like, I spoke about this with fucking Ethan yesterday. The way in which Israelis and Zionists see Palestinians is as a demographic threat to the... They see them as like a demographic threat to the state of Israel. Israel expelled Palestinians in 1948 because of it, you know? And Nora Erakat talks about it consistently in this work.
Members of the armed groups, they don't seem to have initiated any of these attacks at the times of demonstrations, and they find that basically everyone who dies in this period again is not, or gets injured, is not participating in hostilities or posing any serious threat. The big event is on the 14th of May. This is the one where there were prior social media posts saying how to get through the fence, telling people to do it and telling people how to do it. You've got prior calls on social media to breach the fence. They do say non-violent and unarmed. So, okay. The IDF puts out this massive warning saying that there's going to be 250,000 violent rioters. They're going to swarm Israel. They deploy like 11 battalions along the...
Also, just look at that. Like, they deploy 11 battalions. Bro, they're deploying battalions against people who generally are peacefully protesting. Like, the vast majority of people there are peacefully protesting. They are civilians. And someone put it as the paranoia of the colonizers. Yeah, you're 100% categorically correct. Look at these words here. The IOF says there's going to be 250,000 people breaking through. Permission to shoot anyone armed across the 300-meter line and anyone unarmed at less than 100 meters. That's insane.
The border. There are about 40,000 demonstrators, between 35 and 40,000. The Israelis get permission to shoot anyone armed across the 300-meter line, again, anyone unarmed at less than 100 meters.
That's insane, though. Like, shooting people at 100 meters is genuinely unbelievable. And also, Lonerbox actually brings this article up later, but it's pretty interesting because it says... Israeli soldiers have not shot rubber-coated bullets, which have been used elsewhere because they lack sufficient range. Trucks that spout foul-smelling water known as skunk that Israel regularly uses in the West Bank have not been used, he said, again adding that they lacked the range and were not armoured. Asked whether Israel could use less lethal methods, Israel's former national security advisor and a senior fellow at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategic Studies said that such a question was an example of those who can sit in an air-conditioned office drinking coffee and give advice to the Israeli army that is facing off against many thousands of Palestinians. But Yehuda Shaul of Breaking the Silence, an Israeli group that gathers testimony from past and serving Israeli soldiers, granting them anonymity, says Israel's use of live ammunition should be seen in the wider context. That's common that we try to suppress with a heavy response, trying to break the will of the people. He said he pointed to the first month of the second uprising, or intifada, against Israel, when the military fired more than 1 million bullets in the first month alone. Like, Lonerbox separates this from the entire context of Palestine. The response to the first intifada, which was non-violent. Categorically, the first intifada was non-violent. It was mass participation, non-violence. Israel responded with a policy of breaking the bones of Palestinians. Yitzhak Rabin literally said, break the bones of non-violent Palestinians. And you know, you have Lonerbox here giving an explanation why it was basically okay to like shoot people within 100 meters.
They level the ground at the demonstration sites, so again they can like have a very clear buffer zone between the border and the fence, between the road and the fence. So these demonstrators are much bigger. And again, very early at all of the demonstrating sites, you have people slinging stones, like slingshotting. You have people throwing stones. You have people burning tires. The barbed wire coils are ripped away again. You've got the fence actually gets breached at this one point where two people come through and set fire to one of the sniper berms, which is empty at the time, but they set fire.
I think setting fire to a sniper berm that has murdered innocent civilians, that has murdered medics, journalists, children, shot them in the head is a good thing.
And then one is injured and the other one's shot dead as they're running back into Gaza. The ISF, which is the Israeli security forces, claim that
like honestly, you sit here and like going, oh, this is like, oh, can you believe this? Like, oh, the Palestinians did this thing and that thing, and it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Grenades were thrown and the IEDs were thrown. The commission says that they couldn't confirm it. So okay. And on that day, you have over 1,000 people are shot, and I think the number of deaths on the 14th of May, the biggest event for deaths, was 62 dead. 62. Lots of people throwing. Yeah. So this is probably the most contentious one. And I think this is where I'm going to tell you where a bunch of the disputes are. The UN report...
Also, by the way, in academia, how the Great March of Return is talked about is not in terms of like, oh God, this makes Israel so bad. It's like basically in the context of what Israel does. Like, it's in the context of how Israel exists and all of the things that he's done, and all of the things that Israel has done historically. They're not basically just going, oh, the Great March of Return was an isolated incident where Palestinians got really violent and then Israelis were really evil.
It said that in this day, there was one incident which may have amounted to direct participation in hostilities. And the example they have is that there were hundreds of people within the buffer zone, some almost 50 meters from the fence. You've got the usual stone throwing, tires, people approaching the coils. You have other people getting closer. And then you have a explosion of shooting from the ISF. A witness said it was indiscriminate and heavy. A bunch of men approaching the fence are targeted and a bunch of people are killed. And the reason this outbreak of gunfire happened from the ISF was that just before it seems that one person who's unidentified in civilian clothes was very close to a big group, was getting cheered on by the big group, and he was firing a rifle towards the Israeli side.
Genuinely, if one person fired a rifle, motherfucker, Israel killed hundreds of people. They wounded 30,000 people. 30,000 people were wounded in varying degrees in ways that will affect them for the rest of their life. And you sit here and basically give an explanation of like, oh, there's a big debate about what happened this day.
50 to 70 meters from the fence, so very close, thick smoke, and then Israel responds with live gunfire, and then a bunch of people die. So what's interesting about this human rights report is that the way that they characterize this, because this, to the human rights report, is the one person who they say may have been participating in hostilities. They describe it here, the section on 14th of May, an incident that may have amounted to hostilities. So it seems to be that this attack on the border fence throughout these protests is only seen as participating in hostilities when one guy fires a...
Okay, right, so here we go. This is here we go. The Commission is aware of claims that some demonstrators carried firearms. However, during the course of its inquiry into 9 months of large-scale demonstrations, it identified 2 instances of people carrying arms at the demonstration. 1 pistol, visible in a video depicting an Israeli drone being shot down, and 1 rifle. See the section on 14th of May and the description of an incident that may have amounted to hostilities. Were a demonstrator to use firearms against the ISF ISF's use of lethal force in response to such an imminent threat would be lawful, so long it was necessary and proportionate. And Lonerbox is actually, I think, justifying here spraying into a group of people.
The rifle. That's where they get a maybe. 1 person. So.
And also, by the way, once again, I will bring up the fact that Israel has drones, cameras everywhere. There is not much evidence of all of these things that they claimed.
That's where you start to get a bit of contention. So you have these protests, they go on, they start to die down a little bit more between sort of like October and December. And then by the end of December, this is the period they look at. They look at the end of March to the end of December, 183 dead. According to the Human Rights Report, they say 29 people, all in all, they say were members of armed groups. 29 members of organized armed groups. The standard that the Commission uses, though, is that they don't believe in the concept of continuous combat function. They don't use that here. So they believe that if you are part of an organized armed group, you can't just get killed when you're doing whatever. You still be participating directly in hostility.
I think that's a pretty reasonable thing to use. If you go as a civilian to go and protest,
facilities. So that's their standard. You can't just like assassinate a Hamas guy like if they're walking by the like on the Dakar road on the border, right? They say you actually have to be doing something. And to them, attacking the border fence doesn't suffice unless you do it with a rifle, in which case it's a maybe. Okay, so this is where there's a bit of skepticism.
See, like here's Lonerbox saying, here's where there's a bit of a skepticism, and basically it's okay to kill people who are flying kites and trying to burn down the border fence from where loads of them are being killed. I am sorry, people have been kept in Gaza for like years on end. Mate, this is why I said that I think genuinely this is like perverse. Like this is absolutely perverse. It's sickening.
I think on the UN report. So looking at what they've gone through, what I did was I looked at some of the sources that they mentioned for what constitutes direct participation in hostilities. Because as a layperson, I would have thought this is a militarized border on an armistice line. And I feel like that border fence is considered a military target both by the IDF and by Hamas. That's kind of what I would have imagined just like from instinct. Like on October 7th, the first thing they did was they destroyed the fence to let people through on their motorcycles.
Comparing this to October the 7th, which was like an organised, planned military operation, is fucking disgusting, but unsurprising.
As well as paragliding over it, right? So I feel like the border it's got a military purpose.
The border has a military purpose. Yeah, of enclosing 2 million people in. Also, hello, Noah. Thank you for the other day. Shout out, Noah, and congratulations on what you managed to do. Absolutely brilliant. But like this whole idea of saying, oh yeah, it's got a military purpose. The military purpose is preventing the indigenous people of the land from returning to their historic homeland. That is expressly what it is. It is to contain those indigenous people, to prevent them from going to their homelands that they can sometimes see.
When they talk about when this ICRC report on what constitutes participation in hostilities, I think they judge it as something that constitutes...
Here's Lonerbox, the man with a music degree, giving us an explanation as to why the ICRC, all of these organisations are completely wrong.
Direct participation would be, it's regardless of whether or not you're a civilian or member of armed forces. It doesn't refer to affiliation or anything. And I think what constitutes it is they say that there are 3 criteria. They say that there's threshold of harm. The act must be likely to adversely affect the military operations or military capacity of a party to an armed conflict, or alternatively to inflict death, injury, or destruction on persons.
So look, the act must be directly adversely affect the military operations or military capacity of a party to an armed conflict, or alternatively to inflict death, injury, or blah, 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 blah. There must be a direct causal link between the act and the harm likely to result either from the act or from a coordinated military operation of which that act constitutes an integral part. The act must be specifically designed to directly cause the required threshold of harm in support of a party.
Or objects protected.
Like, look at these. Like, you're just writing out very long legal definitions that I'm not sure that you're very that you actually really know or understand fully.
Against direct attack. So it's persons or objects. There must be a direct causal link between the act and the harm likely to result from either that act or from a coordinated military operation of which that act constitutes an integral part. And 3, the act must be specifically designed to directly cause the required threshold of harm in support of a party to the conflict and to the detriment of another, the belligerent nexus. So a threshold of harm, again, it's going to be like likely, as in you could reasonably expect it. Now, when I think about the Great March of Return, I can see why it's a very difficult thing to judge, because the argument
It's not a difficult thing to judge. The vast majority of the people going there were participating as civilians. It is not a difficult thing to judge unless you are interested in supporting the state of Israel.
Would get from, I think, even from the people who built this border fence. Because if you look at the fence, not all of the fence looks like that, okay? This is like the shitty part of the fence, and you've got this many people like coming towards it. Other parts of the fence are more fortified than just this little like thing that you would expect to see in like a sports field, right? But the question is, why is that 100 or 300 meter line so precious? Like, why is the fence so precious? And I think there was an article I read in the New York Times about, they gave a quote from the person who actually designed the fence, like the border fence, or the organization that did. And it seems to be that...
I think a really good person to trust is the person who designed the enclosure of the indigenous people.
If you think about it, let's say you've got like potentially a few thousand people either in or very close to the buffer zone, maybe tens of thousands of people not that far away from the buffer zones. If there's a breach in the fence and those people start running towards it, you have probably, if you're talking 100 meters, you've got like less than 20 seconds before they're at the fence. And if you go further than that, then you've got like, what, like maybe 2 minutes?
What would they do if they cross the fence, Lonerbox? Like, what are they going to do? Like, it's not like it's a huge armed uprising. These are predominantly people who do not have weapons. There are only 2 incidents where they can see people with weapons.
From the buffer zone, at most? You don't really have that long. And I think the fear from the IDF is that they didn't, or the ISF, sorry, is that they don't really want to have Because what do you do then? What do you do when you have like thousands of people potentially through the border and within?
I just want to show you, like, this is kind of the trick that someone like Destiny and Lonerbox play, is that rather than engaging with relevant literature that comes from like academics, it is a choice to engage with this very, very specific set of literature which will basically fit exactly with what they want to say. And I wonder where this all comes from, because I do think that there's like some people who are in their communities, because I know he's friends with people like that opinionated girl, like a horrible, horrible character from TikTok, and these people are all related in ways that you probably wouldn't know about, because very interesting that, you know, someone in Lonerbox's community who regularly appears on his stream is actually very good friends with him. Hold on, is actually really good friends with like this horrifying, hold on, here you go. Right, look at this. So this is like how Noor Aircat talks about it. Neither the emergency regulations nor the formal exile of refugees, however, prevented the return of Palestinians. Palestinian refugees attempted to cross the 1949 armistice line, temporary truce lines, demarcating Israeli and Arab territory by foot to make their way back to their homes. Israel's military establishment perceived the return of refugees as a security threat and instructed their armed forces to prevent their return by every means. By 1960, Israeli troops killed an estimated 3,000 to 5,000 Palestinian returnees along the armistice lines. And I'm sure someone like Lonerbox will be like, yeah, but they did it for security. What security? They expelled the Palestinian people, man. Like, they expelled the Palestinian people. If you truly believe in anything that Palestinians have to say, it has to begin with Palestinians being allowed to return.
Israel. And you don't necessarily know how many of them are armed. It seems to be that some of them are. Like,
I'm sorry, please stop spamming the chat. The donation link is there, but please stop spamming, like...
whether it's with like cold weapons, because the people were using machetes and like big knives to try and cut through the fence. Like, that was documented as well. So that's where you get a bit more of a debate, and I don't really think the human rights...
What's the debate? Like, what's the debate about this? Like, yeah, people tried to cut through the border fence from which they were killing. Like, as I said, the 2 links are here. Please donate if you can, but please just don't spam.
Or even bothers to have it. They don't even consider it. Even though I feel like from the way that you interpret this, which they cite as well, I got this document from them, it feels like there's a pretty strong case for the border fence being what they would describe as a protected target. Because if you're talking about international law, well, international law is that Israel it's their country. That's the country of Israel.
That's the country of Israel. It's a country built on the dispossession of the Palestinian people.
Has a right to defend itself from people who are like attacking it. So, but that doesn't make it... I don't think it solves the argument just yet. One thing I noticed as well from the human rights reports, they said that there were 29 militants in this period. The really weird thing about that is, and you guys have seen me do this for a few things now, is you can go to the Al-Qassam Brigade's website and...
I saw someone talking about this called History Speaks, and what History Speaks actually said about this is that basically, this is a pretty dodgy way to do this, to just go on Hamas's website and then translate it to English when you don't speak any Arabic and say, yep, this means they were Hamas members, it's okay to kill them.
You can look through their list of people.
Israel's entire existence is illegal. The expulsion of the indigenous people should not be legal. You should not be able to do this.
Of martyrs, of people who were in the brigades, who died, and what date they died. And you can look at this event on the 14th of May, and you can find 25 of those deaths were people from the Al-Qassam brigades. Not the party, Hamas, not the civilian part of it, the actual brigades, like militants. Like people who were involved in launching rockets and digging tunnels and building explosives, like anything like that, right?
But also, were they killed as militants?
They even talk about, like, some of the descriptions they give you are like they advanced towards a group of young men towards the wire, cut it, and then whilst pulling back was shot in the head. They give you, like, they even talk about to the point of people like literally egging people on and almost like leading other groups to go to the front of the fence.
It's also young men, like also, by the way, this is young fucking men in the Gaza Strip, right? Like young men who have probably never left Gaza, who have grown up during all of these horrifying times, who have been blockaded, who have had no normal chance in the world. They went up to a border fence.
These militants in civilian clothing. During his participation, he always said to his peers, I want a bullet in my head to rise to the level of martyr to God. There's even one story here that's actually quite sad of one guy dying supposedly in the first row, according to Hamas's website. And there's a story about his mother begging him not to go because she knows that he's doing something that's going to get him killed. And he just says he wants the right to return. And that's like...
But do you not see that? It's like, it's not a sad story. That's an example of what this is an expression of. You know? That Palestinians are not being allowed to are being kept within this area, that there are many people who make a choice to rather die than basically, you know, because they know that they're going to die, and so they go and make a choice. Hold on, let me see if I can find this. Yeah, this is called I'll see if, hold on, I'll pull this up. This is actually a really good article, one of the best articles I've actually probably ever read, which doesn't seem to want to work right now. Hold on, I need to find it. Okay, so during the Yemeni revolution, one of the things that they would do is few acts were considered as revolutionary as matching unarmed into gunfire, urging during demonstrations. A typical scene unfolded as follows. Thank you very much for this, coffee lover. Yeah, I've noticed YouTube is very fucking pro-Israel at this point. Like, YouTube is very pro-Israel. Like, it's always boosting Israeli content, which Israel has never managed to get a hold of TikTok, which is really interesting. But yeah, march through the streets singing, then seeing a military barricade in the distance or finding themselves ambushed at a junction, the crowds would descend into the breach as machine gun fire rattled to life, arms wide open and shouting, "We're peaceful." People in Yemen literally used to just walk into being killed. Like, they literally just used to walk in being killed. And this was written by Ross Porter, who works at Exeter. Security Against the State in Revolutionary Yemen. And I actually think it's free to access. But he talks about this. He talks about how people in Yemen made very, very, very brave decisions of doing this kind of thing.
He just gives it like the stonewall answer, apparently. And this is all in his biography, on the Al-Qassam Brigade's website. Like, they've got biographies, they've got where they died, they've got what they were doing when they died, they've got what they did when they were in the brigades, they've got these photos of them in their military gear and everything. This isn't just them claiming random people as martyrs, this is them claiming mujahid, like fighters. So,
but also, were they directly participating in that at that time?
The Human Rights Report says that there are 29 people who died for this whole 9-month period who were militants, but Hamas's website alone on one day gives you 25. If you add the Palestinian Islamic Jihad militant website, you get 3 more. One of whom was 16 years old. Actually, he might have been 15, because the Human Rights Report says he was 15.
I don't know if I want to debate Lonerbox, because the last time we debated, he just behaved like such a piece of shit.
Well, they don't tell you. ISF soldiers shot 15-year-old Ahmed al-Sher in the back of his head with live ammunition. He was throwing tires at this time. The commission did not pose an immediate threat of death or serious injury when he was shot. They tell you this, that he was 15, that he got shot. What they don't tell you, and what they don't tell you for quite a few of these biographies, is that he was a militant who was attacking the border fence.
16 years old, listed as a 15-year-old. He was a militant attacking because he was burning tires.
I think this guy was actually kind of impressive. This guy was in a wheelchair when he was approaching the border fence. He was an amputee from Castle.
But, like, also, these people are participating as civilians. Like, how can you say this?
Lad.
No, I think it is actually the Qassam Brigade's official website. But, like, he's also saying that, like, this disabled guy, like, what they were participating in civilian clothing. I'm really annoyed because I had an article about this. Hold on. Hold on. Here we go. Ah. Here you go. Right, so this is talking specifically about... Which place is this talking about? Hold on. Demonstration site at Malacca, Gaza City. The Commission found that these units' activities were at times sanctioned or encouraged by the HNC, while members of armed groups appeared to be involved at times. The Commission did not find that armed groups initiated or directed these activities. 21 people, including alleged members of armed groups, members of arts groups, were among participants, but were unarmed. So you can just see, like, all of the examples. Even if the Commission were to have accepted, in this context, the continuous combat function, with its permissive approach to targeting members of arms groups, it notes the difficulty ISF forces would have in complying with the principle of precaution, all feasible measures to avoid and, in any event, to minimise incidental losses of civilian lives, and of proportionality, prohibition on attacks that are expected to cause incidental loss of life. Basically, it's just an example of how Israel can do whatever it wants. And, like, even these attacks are not justifiable, you know? Yeah, I can link the documents I'm looking at. So this is the OCHR report on it.
So from Hamas and Islamic Jihad websites alone, you have 28 out of the 29 people the Commission said were militants. And then possibly, this is only circumstantial evidence at this point, is you have quite a few other people who are buried, wrapped in not only Hamas flags, but Al-Qassam headbands from the 14th of May.
And also, by the way, on the topic of people making sacrifices, right? Like, of people making sacrifices for, you know, these kind of causes. Like, as I say, people don't have all that much to live for in the Gaza Strip. Like, genuinely. The Palestinian people are, like, really denied a right to any semblance of a normal life, right? Like, I'm not exaggerating. Hold on. There's a really good quote in this article. And this is also the funny thing. I don't really care about fucking facts like this. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care about facts. I think they're pointless. I don't think they change people's minds. And I think that there's so much more to these stories that are just than just like reducing it down to, hey man, I found this inconsistency. So this actually means that everyone is wrong about this. So here's what it says. Israel's biopolitical regulation life in Gaza, regulation life in Gaza aims to prevent Palestinians from either dying or flourishing. They are quintessentially relegated to what Giorgio Agamben describes as bare life, a politically constructed biological fact without regard to the potential of how a life can be lived. I think it's true. You can clip it. I don't care. It's something Hegel fucking said. Like, there's like a Hegelian quote that's like that I can't quote here and now, but it's like, it's mentioned in Todd McGowan's book, Hegel, somewhere. It's great.
Well, this is dated in the 19th, but there weren't marches on the 19th, because it's every Friday. Give him another one. Oh, there's a guy from the PFLP as well. The Daily Mail, fuck off. Yeah, this guy, day after 15th of May, this is his funeral with him with the PFLP headband and flag. So
it's also like, who knows what he was in the PFLP? Was he, you know, a militant? Was he someone who worked... oh, fuck's sake, I've just closed this. Was he someone who was like part of the political wing? He may have been wrapped in a headband for a multitude of different reasons.
Again, that's more circumstantial evidence, but from the two websites alone, you got 28 out of the 29. And then that's not even to mention other dates where the Al-Qassam brigades had other people. The PFLP had another person, even on their website. Not to mention, if I go to Al-Qassam deaths that happened at Great March of Return protests, outside of these three key dates, you have this. And the number I got to in the end for either like high likelihood of being militants or definitely militants was about just under 30% of the people who died. There were a lot of people injured. There were like 6,000 people who were injured, mostly from gunshots to the legs.
And by the way, this is also such a point to note. So he dismisses the fact that there were approximately 6,000 injured from gunshots, intentional gunshots to people's legs, injuries which maim, which disable people's lives, and that's just okay. And he's kind of now going to go, well, actually, Israel did all of these things. These injuries have literally defined and changed people's lives. That they affected Gaza's healthcare system. They affect the family members. Gaza doesn't have the capacity to manage these kinds of injuries. Hold on. I just want to see if I can find this. I think it was in this Craig Jones one. Is it here? Is it in Noah's article? Oh, where did I see this? Oh, fuck. I saw like the most... here it is. Fucker, it's doing this thing. I hate it when it won't let you search in a PDF. Here you go. Right. Let's read this. I've never seen this put so horrifyingly before. Here you go, here you go. Oh, fuck me. Some soldiers made a game out of targeting legs, and the anatomically complex knee became the inevitable bullseye. Reports of kneecapping were emerging in the West Bank in the years immediately preceding the Great March of Return, with one Shin Bet security officer reportedly telling Palestinians, "All of you will end up on crutches, and we'll make you all disabled." In the Great March of Return, the anatomical patterns were... in the Great March of Return, the anatomical patterns were again unmistakable. You were not meant to see massive bleeding. I mean, please, Mohsen, I have asked once, like, the donation link is up there. I have asked people to donate. I request, please, like, stop spamming in the chat. Like I say, please, if people can donate. But, like, as I say, please stop spamming in the chat. As I said, the link is there, and I've asked people to donate, but please stop spamming. In the Great March of Return, okay, here you go. You are not meant to see massive bleeding because in the region of the knee and bone, there aren't a lot of capillaries, reported a sniper who was deployed to the Gaza fence. If you see blood, that's not a good sign because you probably hit too high, quoted in Glazer. Another sniper boasted of how he kept the bullet casing for each Palestinian knee he hit, 52 in total. Asked whether he considered this a high number, the soldier replied, "I haven't really thought about it. It's not hundreds of liquidations like in the movie American Sniper. We're talking about knees. I'm not making light of it. I shot a human being, but still. This article is great for it. And it's also an important thing for when it comes to Palestine. You should, Palestine more generally, you should focus on the injured as well. You should focus on injured people as well. You know, not just, it's like, right, I'm in a timeout. I'm sorry, I'm too liberal with these. Like, I don't think spamming is good for, like, the algorithm or for the YouTube chat generally. And the donation link is there. I've already said that I find this to be a difficult thing. I will leave the link up there, but yeah.
But the people who died, as in, like, the people who seem to...
Well, Do Not Worry has already done a thing around, with Mohsen, so, you know, I'm sure that they vetted him, and I have, like, no problem with people donating. Please donate if you can, but it's just a case of, like, hey, you know, spamming is not like, people are going to donate, they'll see the link if they want to.
Across the threshold, or seem to be the ones that were considered the biggest threat.
But, like, also, by the way, he's just like, yeah, I found actually 30% militants. Okay, Lonerbox, how many of the 30,000 people injured were militants? How many, Lonerbox? Is it okay to shoot people in the leg? Is it okay to make games of that?
Yeah, about just under 30% of them were militants, about 50 odd total. So, not sure how they undercounted, because a lot of these people were, like, almost all these people were claimed on the day that these things happened, or the day after, or very shortly after they happened, not like months afterwards. So there's a little bit of poor intelligence, I think, from the Human Rights Report there.
No, of course, I know, of course, and I have no problem, but it's just I said, hey, can you not spam once, and then, you know, just kept on spamming. I understand that people are desperate, and I understand this, but it's just like, it's just spamming, and I don't think it's good for the algorithm. Yeah. I completely... No. I don't have a problem with the links. But, like, I'm just saying, like, don't spam the chat. I'm not sure it's good for the algorithm. I'm not sure it's good for anything like that.
What they also don't mention in the HR...
I debated Lonerbox a while ago, like, I don't know, and I didn't prep anything, and he just spent his time obfuscating and moving away from the actual topic of anything significant.
The report is that very shortly after this main event on the 14th of May, when 62 people died, Hamas claimed 50 of them.
This CNN article is a pretty interesting example to bring up as well. Because, hold on. So this is allegedly said by Salah al-Bardwil. This is allegedly said by Salah al-Bardil in an interview. In the last round, 62 people were martyred. 50 of them are from Hamas and 12 from the people. Al-Bardil replied, I am telling you, these are official numbers. Israeli officials have seized on the comment. Here you go. Hamas spokesman Abdel Latif Qanau Mosen was here. Yeah, Mosen just kept commenting over and over again. And I've got his donation link. And as I say, please donate. But yeah, Mosen just kept on saying over and over again. And I just said, please just don't spam. Like, people will donate. It's there and people have seen it and people, will. But it's just like, I don't think it's necessarily the best thing for the chat. But yeah. Hamas spokesman Abdul Latif Kanaus, in a phone conversation with CNN, would not confirm or deny the number of fatalities linked to Hamas. I do not have specific numbers, but all the factions have participated in demonstrations. The protests are peaceful, include all political and military factions, the Qassam brigades, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and all factions are a part of the Palestinian people. When the people decided to move, all the people of all different factions moved with them. And just as pursue military resistance, they also pursue peaceful resistance. I personally doubt the number. So this is Ahmed Abu Artema, someone who is not interested in militant resistance. He told CNN, "This is rhetoric. I don't believe al-Badwil has confirmed the I don't believe al-Badwil has confirmed the number. The reporter provoked him with a question, but he added, even if the number was right, the political and military factions are a part of our society," which is the important thing to note. Like, they're allowed to go to a peaceful one.
50 out of 62. So you got Hamas claiming 50 members, 25 of whom are fighters, PIJ claiming 3. You have a pretty disproportionate representation there. Now, I will say, Israeli intelligence goes a lot further than I'm going here. They go as far as to say that 80%
needs to get you the Israeli intelligence shown in.
The people who died at the whole March of Return period were either militants or party affiliates. I can't verify that myself. I tried to reverse image search a few of the bits of evidence that they provide, but Israeli intelligence, unfortunately, is kind of horseshit. At least these reports are. Like, their advocacy is really, really bad. It's like they just give you things like
God, I just wish Israeli intelligence was better.
FLP website, and if you reverse image search, you can find this guy, but for a lot of them, you can't.
Hang on a second. Wait, what is Do Not Worry live now?
They haven't archived anything. There's no hyperlinks. A lot of these Facebook pages are just dead. Some of them are very loose circumstantial evidence that they're just like, he seems to have been like a Fatah sympathizer, like an activist, but not really any idea. Some of them are claimed by the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, of whom some of them are still going around in Gaza. But yeah, I didn't go that far, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because being an affiliate doesn't make you a target automatically. What it might suggest, the representation of affiliates, at least on this one day that I was able to find,
Oh.
Is that this seems to have been this attempt to cross the border fence and to actually attack the border fence and attack the troops was a Hamas project. I think there's enough circumstantial evidence to suggest that for at least some of the protests, at least much more so than is stated publicly. We do know that Hamas were encouraging people to go forward. I think if you look for Hania, who, by the way, during these protests in this period, can be seen standing, giving a speech in front of a poster with Gandhi, MLK, and Nelson Mandela, the leader of Hamas. So that's good memes.
It's just interesting that Lonerbox is like, good memes.
We also do know that they were, at the very least, implicitly encouraging people to approach the border fence and to attack it, because there's one picture here of a very, very young child who became a bit of an icon because he very creatively wore a mask that had an onion plant in it, because onions help you against tear gas. So this guy is going towards the buffer zone, or
this is also a really, 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 really perverse part of this.
Towards the fence and using an onion mask to defend himself against the tear gas. Very young guy, and he is rewarded by Hamas with this little photo op. So we know at least there's a little bit of
They're the government of the Gaza Strip, you piece of shit.
Encouragement, even for what looks like someone who's younger than 10, to go and do this. So that's kind of gross.
He went to participate in a protest against the state of Israel and what it does to Palestinians. Like, he went to protest because he is a child who also deserves a right to return to his homeland.
So it feels like if you've got such a disproportionate number of the deaths, because again, like, I don't think 30% of Gaza are militants. I feel like it's quite...
Yeah, I know. Very young guy. It's kind of mad. He's a child. He's like 10.
Disproportionate. It would seem to be the case that there was at least some level of discernment when it came to militants or what they considered to be...
Lonerbox, 6,000 people were shot with live ammunition. There are an obscene amount of people who received gunshot wounds to, certain parts of the body. I mean, this is all covered in... Oh, God. Where is it? Why have I closed it? Not good. Oh, no. It discusses it all in here about, like, the amount of... 8,000 Gazans have been shot, and the vast majority, an astonishing 90%, were shot in the limbs. Yeah, you know what is more impressive about how the sniping operation worked, Lonerbox, is that they intentionally targeted specific parts of bodies.
The inciters and what they consider to be civilians, because of how many militants cross the threshold proportionately for getting...
Is that really the case? 30% plus hundreds of thousands of people shot?
Killed, not just shot, or not just wounded. And I feel like this is really odd because this human rights report that is so negligent with talking about the participation of militants and seems to be so strange and like idiosyncratic in their understanding of the ICRC's guidelines on who is participating in hostilities. This is like the gold standard for talking about the March of Return, this 250-page document. And like even if you look at what they do here, like, they'll do this constantly with these, because they do these little like obituaries for people who died. And they'll say things like, this guy, Tahir Madi, a 24-year-old from Al-Shtai refugee camp. The ISF shot him in the torso at approximately 12 p.m. when he was roughly 300 meters from the separation fence. Madi had been walking away from the fence towards the camp of return when he was shot.
I think it's pretty mad that you shoot people who are further away.
He died of lacerations to his internal organs. And then they obviously, for every single one, they say did not find a threat of immediate death or serious injury. But they don't tell you that this guy, Tahir Madi, is a Al-Qassam Brigades member. See that, the date? 5th of May? No, 14th of May, sorry.
But was he directly participating in hostilities? I'm just seeing what was published about him at the time. So this is a Palestinian news source. No, Al-Haq, yeah. Taha Ahmed Mahdi was a married father of one. At approximately a married father of one, Taha's friend and neighbour witnessed his death. While I was standing with Tahir Mahdi and our friends next to a large blue tent set up about 350 metres from the border fence, watching the march and exchanging conversations, I heard the sound of live bullets fired from the Israeli soldiers towards the protesters, and I suddenly saw Tahir falling on the ground next to me, and another young man falling to the ground 5 metres away. Then I checked on Tahrir and saw blood flowing profusely from his chest. In the meantime, a number of young men and I took Tahir to an ambulance and transferred him to Al-Shifa Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. And then, right, what does it say? During the 8th, the IOF killed Palestinians more than any week since the Great March of Return. However, and their status is blah, blah, blah. However, the policing of peaceful assemblies is governed by international humanitarian rights law and regulated by Code of Conduct enforcement law. Meanwhile, the Code of Conduct law of enforcement officials specifies that the use of force may be justified when strictly necessary, in line with human dignity and the human rights rule. The case of who was 450 meters away and fence and drinking his water, and posing no threat to armed soldiers, was shot by a live bullet that penetrated his chest. Tahir Mahdi, who was 350 metres away from the border fence, watching the march peacefully when shot in the chest, breaches the principle implicit in the right to life, to use no more force than is absolutely necessary, in the protection of life or in self-defence. The firing of artillery shells, and right. So that's sort of what they say.
And they do this with multiple people. I don't know why this is not like relevant information to them.
Because seemingly, even if he was, how would that be relevant to where he was and what he was doing?
And yeah, some of them actually have videos. Some of them have montages when they die. They get like a little martyr video. And again, not random party affiliates who are getting called martyrs. No, fighters. Mujahid, right? So,
like, what is the point? He's so far away.
Yeah, like, I think there's one of these biographies. Hang on. There's one of these biographies where they actually talk about this guy. This is a guy who died on the 14th of May as well. God willing, on the day of martyrdom, after he prayed the dawn prayer, our martyr went to work in the forces protecting the borders. And as soon as he finished work, he quickly went home to take off his military uniform and put on civilian clothes to go out and participate with his people.
So he participated in non-violent resistance and was killed there.
And the millions of return and breaking the siege. As soon as he arrived, he was surprised by 6 bullets from the rifle of a hateful Zionist soldier, making him a martyr. Yeah, so we know that they did this. Like, this is Hamas's own website. Like, you can do this for multiple events. It's so strange. Yeah, they...
Hold on.
Yeah, they went into civilian clothes, and it seems to be... Our martyr went to work in the forces protecting the borders, and as soon as he finished work, he quickly went home to take off his... This guy. This is the guy who died in the...
I love how he's just laughing and, like, objectively, these people were shot. Like, were shot. Regardless of Ahmed Mohammed Hamdan. Ahmed Mohammed Hamdan. March of turn. Can you? Ibrahim Hamdan. So the only people who wrote about this was Middle East Eye at the time. He was shot in the chest in East Khan Yunis. He was only 17. It's quite hard to find out much about him because obviously this just isn't much available information.
The 14th of May as well.
I mean, Lonerbox is a very interesting guy. I don't know what he would say. Lonerbox is friendly with Israeli soldiers, by the way. Like, Lonerbox did a 20-minute interview with an Israeli... He did a 20-minute interview with an Israeli soldier who'd served in the Gaza Strip and let the guy speak over and over again. You know?
God willing, on the day of martyrdom, after he prayed the dawn prayer, our martyr went to work in the forces protecting the borders. And as soon as he finished work, he quickly went home to take off his military uniform and put on civilian clothes to go out and participate with his people in the millions of return and breaking the siege. As soon as he arrived, he was surprised by 6 bullets from the rifle of a hateful Zionist soldier, making him a martyr. Yeah, so we know that they did this. Like, this is Hamas's own website. Like, you can do this for...
But what is the point? That he then went to be participate in a civilian demonstration, so it's okay to kill him?
Yeah, they went into civilian clothes. And it seems to be that at least some of them were literally egging people on and inspiring people to join in the attack with them. And then at that point, you've got militants who seem to be intent on attacking the border fence, militants who are part of a conflict. And then you've also got civilians around them who are assisting them in doing it with, like, either by burning tires or by, like, having, like, an overwhelming presence or throwing stones.
So wait, sorry, his argument is that civilians help them get towards the Gaza... Sorry, civilians help them to get towards the border? Like, what is this?
And everything else are throwing the kites or balloons. So the question becomes very murky of, like, well, did they become targets as well because they're assisting? And
the question becomes very murky. I don't think unless you're a fucking Israeli soldier. And by the way, this guy actually says later on in the video that there was just straight up murder.
Seems to be that if you can consider the first person to be participating in hostilities, then, like, the actual militant who wants to break the fence, then you would actually have to consider the civilians who help them, whether or not...
But there weren't presence of major amounts of militants, and a lot of the people that Lonerbox is talking about here, it's still said that they were killed from quite a large distance from the fence.
Knowingly or not, to do it as militant, as participating in hostilities as well. And it's not the case that... This report also does this really weird thing where they constantly tell you that they died when they were running away, that they were fleeing they'd approach the fence, but they get shot when they're running away. But again, if we're talking about IHL, that's allowed, unfortunately, because you don't become hors de combat just because you retreat. You become hors de combat if you retreat and then you resume your civilian activity. But just a retreat, like, because a retreat can be a tactical retreat, right? So, but again, like, none of this is really reflected in the UN report, which is it's just so bizarre. And
an enemy fleeing the battle without some other...
They even go a little bit further. They actually do something that... Well, first of all, let's say one thing that they do right. Like, they do correctly call out... There was some misinformation that went around the March of Return, from the IDF, actually. There was misinformation around the death of... There were a couple of deaths that had misinformation around it. I think the key event was this person, Razan al-Najjar. So she was a paramedic who was killed in a protest on the 1st of June. And the IDF... basically...
So Lonerbox here basically is like, when I actually had a debate with Lonerbox, he basically said, oh, the Israeli spokesman, when he said this thing about the Al Ahli Baptist Hospital, he did it just to get his people juiced. Oh, you can't accuse a whole country of lying. Here's Lonerbox noting an example of where the Israeli government manipulated a piece of information to justify murdering a paramedic.
Said that she was a human shield, and they show you a video of her saying that she was going to be a human shield for the protesters, and they say that they use this little clip and say that she admits to being a human shield for Hamas. But the problem was that they clipped it out of context. And in the full context of what she's saying, with like the proper translation, she's actually saying that she acted as a human shield for injured demonstrators, as that she was there to help injured demonstrators. And so the IDF just lied about it. So there was like...
So I was looking at the order combat thing, and I'm just having a look. The law permits an enemy equipment wherever located, whether advancing, retreating, or standing still. Retreat does not prevent further attack. Switzerland. If a commando raids an enemy post and captures soldiers by surprise without being able to take it along in its retreat, it shall not have the right to kill or injure. Will cease to be subject to attack when they have individual... So it doesn't really say that much. So I think actually for once he's right about something.
Like, there were a few other examples of that as well, but it was of that ilk when it came to some of the deaths. Because the IDF, the ISF, they don't come without criticism. Far from it in this case, actually. There are quite a lot of killings in here, not just injuries, but killings, where it's very clear, I think, that these people were not participating in hostilities. Or were not or could have been repelled with non-lethal means. There are people who are reported in the commission review that even some of them have video footage apparently, so it's not fake, that there are some people who are just walking in the buffer zone on their own and getting shot anyway without warning shots. It also seems to be that there are some people who were just not on the 300-meter line, or not within the 300-meter line, or just on the edge, but
So he's just saying, oh, people were getting shot and stuff. It's just so hard to talk about because Lonerbox is like, oh, I feel like this way about something, I feel like that way about something.
400 or 500 meters away who get shot and killed. There's one guy who's just sitting on a hill, or there's another kid who's distributing sandwiches over the other side of the road.
You know what? And you're still sat there yeah, well, there were, the X amount of militants killed. So they say about 29 in the case of the ICRC, whereas Lonerbox says it's about 30% of those killed, which is what? I think that's about, it's pretty much a similar-ish number, right? It would be maybe 40? I'm not 100% sure.
So there are some instances where people are clearly killed when they are not doing anything of the whether it's policing laws or IHL. It's completely unjustified. And the problem is that, like I said at the beginning, this is not a bad apples problem, because if anyone was using live ammunition, it was because a commander said that they could. So that's
Here you go, Lonerbox saying that a commander said they could.
one problem. And the other is just... Let me summarize.
In your Jare, as a statement, the dude is ghoulish, man, not just... By the way, after dying, when not affiliated, it's common to have the armband and flag of a politician, clan, or multiple in your Jare as a statement. This dude is ghoulish, man. Yeah, I mean, it's just justifying it. I really can't, it's really hard to talk about this guy, because this is just really heinous views. And here he is saying that, yeah, Israeli soldiers shot children intentionally, but he wants to give you an explanation of... why basically it was justified in doing this, basically, is what he's saying here. Hold on. So once again, I'll just pull you another example. Ahmed Al-Qara, 29 years old, describes that so he's talking about... an 11-year-old, Yasser Abu al-Najjar. I saw 3 kids around 12 or 13 hiding behind a dumpster and a pile of junk about about 100 meters from the fence. There was a lot of tear gas, so people were running west, but the 3 kids stayed put behind the dumpster with a few other guys. At the same time, I saw a soldier behind a small dirt pile. He climbed off it onto a higher one, and then I heard a single gunshot. I saw one of the kids come out from behind the dumpster and walk towards me. He was checking his body. His clothes were blood-stained, and I heard him shout, "Martyr, martyr." I saw several dozen people running towards the dumpster, and the guys pick up one of the two remaining kids and carried him away. Then a bullet hit my back from the right side and exited through my chest. I was about 200 meters away from the fence. There were no ambulances. They couldn't come to us because of the shooting. Two civilian defensemen were near me and pulled me behind a wall for cover from gunfire, and another guy took my phone and called my family. The targeting of a man in his groin of paramedics and in their upper bodies indicates an excessive and indiscriminate use of force, according to Jihad al-Juhaidi, head of the intensive care unit at Al-Shifa. All injuries he saw were centered on the head, knee joints, or pelvic joints, indicating the Israeli forces were shooting to kill or to cause disabilities. When asked why Israeli forces did not use water cannons or other non-lethal means to push back protesters, senior Israeli military officers told the Washington Post, an international news media outlet, that those measures lacked adequate range. Indicating the significant distance of the protesters from the fence. The officer's comment about adequate range makes the state characterization of Molotov cocktails and stones as lethal threat even more troubling. Human Rights Watch adds that the security infrastructure around the Gaza-Israel buffer zone, namely 2-meter high fencing with electronic sensors, ditches and military watchtowers along the Gaza periphery, as well as electronic sensors around the 12 Israeli communities near Gaza, further undercuts the claim that the protesters posed an imminent threat.
I think, at the very least, it seems to be that around 30%, give or take, of the people who were killed at the Great March of Return, I think they were participating in hostilities. I think they were militants. They were clearly engaged in something that was a form of hostilities against the opposing army, the opposing country. They were attacking something that I think both sides...
They were attacking something, offense.
Clearly consider by their actions a military target. They were egging on other civilians to help them with it. Yeah, I think at least that kind of 30-ish%, maybe a bit less. They were clearly participating in hostilities. They were combatants, even if they were unarmed. You don't have to be armed to be a combatant. You can look it up.
I mean, I feel like when you're at a peaceful protest, you probably do have to be armed to, you know, do have to be armed to be a combatant. I just don't think that any of this, in what he's saying there, is true.
As for the rest, I think it's probably a mix. I think it's a mix of, unfortunately, some civilians who were caught up in either the mob mentality or were party...
The mob mentality. Caught up in the mob mentality. Children who were shot in the head. And by the way, if Israel had done this once, it would be a pretty heinous action. But if Israel had done this for so many years, because Israel has done this for so many years, how can you possibly say this?
Affiliates who were assisting the militants, or were just regular civilians who were unwittingly assisting the militants, but still doing things like providing cover for people to move forward, or hacking at the fence, or pushing through the fence, with some of them with cold weapons. Definitely the person who had a gun. Like, okay. So in that case, but I think also in that second category, there's also people who weren't neither taking part in the attacks on the fence, nor were parts of armed organizations. I think quite a few people were killed here.
And also the 6,000 wounded Lonerbox, did you analyze how many of those were militants? Did you bother doing any analysis of that? Is that 30%, you know? Is it just okay to injure that many people?
Not do anything to deserve being seen as combatants. Like, they just didn't deserve to die. And unfortunately, with the IDF, the ISF, with Israeli soldiers, is that... Do you guys know the longest time an IDF person has spent in jail for committing a crime against a Palestinian, for murdering a Palestinian?
And also, by the way, I will once again note that Israel said that they were not going to investigate it straight away. Well, I mean, so here's... Right. Militants.
The longest they spent in jail. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty...
Jesus
sure.
Christ.
I know the highest example. Not sentence. It's about 3 years, yeah. For a participant in the Kfar Qasim massacre. They had a longer sentence, but they were out in 3 years. The IDF has a very...
Three years, and this is what you're defending.
Real systemic problem where I know why they do it. They feel like they're in a difficult situation, and they feel like they're fighting people who don't respect international law. Who
Once again, this is literally just like colonialism, as I showed you earlier. And this is again why, like, I'm sorry, just like giving you loads of random facts and basically going, well, I've done the analysis and I think about 30% are militants. Okay, Lonerbox, you don't even in his Obsidian notes. Look, I'll show you. Militants. Evidence more circumstantial. I don't think it actually says anywhere the thing. Right, I'll search percent. There's no mention of how he reaches this. 30%. Right, here we go. We might find it like this. 31% were operatives of military wings and 150/187 with some organisation. Right, here it is. 37 unknown. Israeli Intelligence Center. Militant numbers from Hamas and PIGA both seem to match. As for affiliates, the report mostly gathers pictures and announcements from various social media posts. So this is Israel's... right. So he just, right, 30, total, 96, 45, 6, 6. So they basically claim that everyone was affiliated with these groups. And by the way, we've seen in Gaza where this basically ends up. But here's the thing. So he claims it here. So 44 Al-Qassam deaths just from their website. So that's using from that. National Committee for the March, led by Khaled al-Bash, a leader of Islamic Jewish Lex Specials. Some part may constitute IHL, some moment. UN report summary somehow manages to miss every Hamas member in their list. Taha Madi, his Qassam page, Jihad al-Farah, the ISF soldiers shot him in the neck. I mean, also, by the way, I just don't think that you can justify all of this. I think if people participate in non-violent resistance, you shouldn't be able to just kill them.
Embed themselves in civilians. And
do I have the... I didn't know any of these things about Westside Tyler. I watched Bad Empanada's video, and if they were actually true... Like, you know, I think it's pretty horrible.
Their soldiers have to make very hard...
I think it's really inappropriate, and I don't think I would, you know, say that people should support him.
...decisions, and they don't want those soldiers to be hesitant about making those bad decisions to the point that they'll endanger themselves and their own people. That's the justification they give, which is why they give so much leeway. But at the end of the day, you want to call yourself the most moral army, the most legal army in the world, whatever the fuck, well, it seems to be very clear... It's very clear that the lack of repercussions allows people to get away with extreme excesses, like with what I would consider crimes. And unfortunately... Well,
so here you go. So, also, by the way, by Lonerbox's logic, pretty much every Israeli killed on October the 7th, apart from people under the age of 18, would have served in the Israeli military. Perhaps they were still reservists, perhaps they were people who had weapons on that day. Would it be okay to, you know, kill all of them? You don't think so, so...
Well, never know, because Israel did not cooperate with the UN... report because they don't trust them.
And also, like, if these people were all like, look, if there was such a high percentage of militants in the killed, why is this? Why is it that Israel would not allow investigations? Why would they not cooperate? Because Israel operates outside of the bounds of international law.
I can see why they don't trust them, but they didn't cooperate, and there's not going to be an internal procedure. No one externally is going to do it. It's just really, yeah, it's a shame. It's somewhere where there definitely should be improvement, because I feel like if they could, you can do this. I can't show it on stream because it's like killing someone, but you can see that incident. Fuck, who's the name of the incident? The one where there's like a terror suspect or someone who's been apprehended, or he's already been hit, I think. It's like there's a Palestinian attacker who is literally on the ground, on his face, not moving a muscle for like several seconds, just sitting, just lying there.
Here's Lonerbox saying, like, I think Israel should improve and get better.
This soldier pushes the people out of the way, gets his gun, and just shoots him in the face. And I think that soldier did not get convicted of murder.
He just laughs. He laughs whilst he's just making this, you know?
Yeah, the guy was down for minutes. Yeah, people in chat know the name. Elor Azaria. Yeah. It's very, very obvious that they do this. And it's a very serious, like, systemic issue that needs to get... that needs to go.
So, like, Lonerbox, if there's a serious systemic issue of just mass murder of Palestinians, like, completely operating outside of the bounds of international law, why are you basically making a long video where you're like, well, I've done all this done all of this rather shoddy research where I don't speak Arabic, where I cannot actually confirm exactly how these people died, what they were doing when they died, what their actual roles in Hamas were, and you just say this? It's kind of fucking insane.
11 minutes. Okay. I'm just talking about the clip when I say several seconds, by the way. I don't want to what about this, but Hamas has zero repercussions before anyone starts selectively crying about Israel. I hope you don't think I've been selective, but anyway. Yeah, you shouldn't what about this, because at the end of the day, we're not allies with Hamas. my country is not an ally of Hamas. My country doesn't like Hamas. My country is an ally of Israel, though.
There's a really, really particularly perverse bit here.
And you know me, I love my Jewish friends, my Israeli friends. I'm like, fuck you, this you need to sort this out. It's really fucking bad. Because it makes you guys look bad as well. I know the March of Return, and the reason I did so much reading...
You need to sort this out because it makes you guys look bad. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. Like, this whole video can basically be summarized. I think this is the final bit I'm going to watch because it's just crap.
On this particular one is just because of how contentious it is and how difficult it is to actually have like a thoughtful discussion on it, because it's so easy to frame this protest and the way that people frame it. It's so easy to frame this as just like civilian refugees doing this, going towards the border because they want to protest, they want to symbolically gaze at their lost homelands, and then the IDF, the satanic fucking sniper brigade, elite snipers, just pow, 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 like, yeah, like that's it.
That's not how the academic literature frames it. This is just not how the academic literature frames it. And Lonerbox is like, yeah, you know, I went through all of this stuff. So here's like Nora Erakat. Like, as I've said, this is a great piece of work. She's a human rights attorney. She's an assistant professor at Rutgers. And she talks about the Great March of Return in a much more interesting context. She situates it within what Israel has done historically. How there are so many examples of Israel using shoot to kill. The concept of shrinking what is constituted as a civilian. And here Lonerbox does it. He's like, oh, even if these people participated as militants, okay, look, they can be, even if these people didn't participate directly as militants, because they threatened a border fence, they can be killed. Lonerbox, 2 million refugees shouldn't be hidden behind a wall like this. 2 million refugees shouldn't be kept in these places like this. It's utterly ridiculous and disgusting to make a video like this. I don't care about calling the IOF satanic. What I care about is saying, hey, this is really indicative of a year-long process of a decade-long process of Israeli unwillingness to allow Palestinians to live with dignity, to return to their historic homeland.
The image I think that is portrayed by a lot of like far-left media. That's basically what Ryan Grimm said about it. That was his summary of the Great March of Return. I'm like, what the
And also, once again, I will also point you to Craig Jones' article about this. Just compare like this to how Lonerbox and people like this talked. The soldiers were armed with Israel-made Tavor rifles, which use 5.65. So basically, it's just they're using high velocity weapons to shoot, thousands upon thousands of people in the Gaza Strip, intentionally targeting their legs, doing things like this. It's really insane, like, to talk like this, you know?
fuck. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean the IDF didn't do. It doesn't mean some of those snipers didn't seem to have done pretty horrible things. They do.
Some of their snipers did horrible things.
And we know that they were capable of being more restrained because in instances where they showed restraint, they showed it. They put it on their website. They showed instances where you have fairly large crowds, or not even this is a smaller crowd, but they show you, for example, here, this crowd is not that big.
Congratulations to the IOF for not shooting people.
They're getting pretty close to the fence.
Wow, they can be so restrained sometimes. They did shoot, 30,000 people, but they could be restrained at times, and I think that's awesome.
And the IDF, in this case, ISF, fuck me. There are fires being lit, there are things getting thrown over, probably stones, and they use tear gas, even though under Israeli regulations, they have the right to kill these people, apparently. So we know that they're capable of it, and I think there's this one here, I think, that they show you, but it seems to be, I don't know why I keep saying it seems to be, it's the case that not every event and not every particular approach to the border was...
So why were so many children in random places shot? Why were so many people maimed in... And also, there's a combination of Gaza, right? Gaza is blockaded by this wall. People who live there are denied, basically, the right to, have access to decent healthcare. Israel has crippled their healthcare systems. And then Lonerbox has the audacity to sit there and go, ignore all of this wounding,
treated in this way. Like, this is a very large crowd. And I think even in some of these videos, you can see, I don't know if it's this one, there's one of these videos where you can actually see the warning shot on the ground next to the crowd, and then people start to run away. But this is like a pretty big crowd here, and it's not like these guys are dropping like flies. Again, there's like a level of restraint applied here. So we know that they're capable of it. Where did you find these videos? IDF website.
Where did you find these videos? IDF website.
But if you look through some of those biographies of the people who died in the HSC report, there's just no way around it. Like, it's just a lot of people got shot who did not need to get shot, let alone die.
And also, by the way, getting shot is a fucking horrible experience. Like, it's not let alone die. I think this is a very important thing to note. Being traumatically wounded, losing your ability to walk, having your entire life altered, the trajectory of your whole life altered. It's really, really fucking hard. It's really hard, and when you live in a space that is densely is so densely populated that predominantly people build upwards rather than outwards, it's not like a normal place, and you need rehabilitation, and it's like, Lonerbox, you've just ignored all of these things.
And I think that's just about everything we know about the Great March of Return.
That's just everything that we know about the Great March of Return. We're not watching the final 30 minutes because it's just more crap. It's him like talking about like, oh, here's more people that you can explain it. Here's more ways that you can justify killing Palestinians. It's really just disgusting. Right, that's enough Lonerbox. I'm just going to go for a pee and then maybe we'll do a tiny bit more. Don't say I'm muted. I've been back for 1 second. Right, is there anything you want to talk about? Any like topics that you'd like to basically see me cover? I guess I can check Reddit and things like that. There he comes. Yeah, I'm just looking through. Just looking through and seeing if there's anything to cover. There's not really much I had left that I wanted to talk about. I did wash my hands. I did indeed wash my hands. Who on earth could have predicted this would happen? God, YouTube chatting on live stream is like wading through treacle. What do you mean? He was quick. Cumguz, an epic name. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. Maybe you can ask me some questions if you want, or like talk to me about Palestine. I used to love doing that. That's one of the reasons I used to love going live on TikTok. Yeah. Right, that's it. That's it. I'll take him off your screams. That's enough. That's enough, Mr. Lonerbox. That's enough. But yeah, what I was thinking about making a video about, Chris, can we cover Macron and his grooming wife? I mean, like, what do you want me to cover about, like, what do you want me to cover about, like, Macron slapping his wife? I mean, his wife slapped him. Like, that's sort of it. Like, it's kind of funny. It's kind of like, his wife slapped him, and that's, I don't know what to say. Oh yeah, by the way, I also have like another video planned, which I'm going to make this week. I've written it all out. The UK said that they were going to suspend like some kind of trade link. So the deal 2030 or something, bilateral roadmap 2030, and then said, we left Gaza in 2005. Yes, they left it completely blockaded and controlled everything that went in and out. Thank you, hey, I'm going to plays. The tunnels were built out of necessity. I mean, I've seen people say that. I've seen people talk about how the tunnels were built out of necessity. And I mean, I think that there's an interesting argument or way to describe it. What do you expect with people who you lock in and have consistently killed? They'll tunnel deep into the earth, you know? It's hardly surprising. Yeah, and I mean, she is old. Can we talk about Black September? What about Black September? Black September are not a group that I'm necessarily an expert on. I know that they're a part of, like, Palestinian resistance organisations, but, yeah, I mean, they're not a group that I necessarily have an expertise on. Slow news day. Guys, am I the only one that didn't know Macron's wife was his teacher? Did people actually not know that Macron's wife is his teacher? You know, that Macron's wife is his teacher. No, that's fucking mad. I mean, it's a bit odd, but yeah. I mean, this is also why I'm not so quick to believe that, you know, things are falling apart between Western nations and Israel. Sketchy Israeli aid scheme. I'm just checking if there's anything really happening before I end the stream. I'm just getting fucking weird. My YouTube recommendation is just someone trying to explain that Gaza is not starving. But maybe I'll just call it because I'm not sure there's anything I want to talk about. A bit odd, he was 15 and his teacher was 40. Yeah, I'd kind of forgotten it was that extreme, but yeah. I'd forgotten it was that extreme. But yeah, maybe I'm going to call it because I don't have anything else to talk about. Like, I think I did decently today. I think people enjoyed it. Thank you all for coming. I think I'm going to call it because actually I'm quite tired and I streamed for ages yesterday. I won't be live tomorrow. I'll be live on... I will be live on... Thursday again. So thank you all for coming. Sorry, Thursday. I might be live tomorrow. It kind of depends what I want to do. So maybe you'll get a live stream, but failing that, definitely Thursday. So alright guys, speak to you later.